Welcome into Fresh Hair here on NPR. I'm your host, Jeff, and, well, let's liven things up a bit. Folks, welcome into your Tuesday night show here on WCBS. That intro music makes me want to go to sleep on principle alone. But, folks, we have an episode that you'll never forget. Because, yes, it's the High Council. Yes, we're going to talk about all the news and stuff that you want to talk about. But, backed by popular demand, we're going to play a little bracket battle to give the guys on the Thursday night show a break. But we have something fun for you all here tonight. So I'm about to introduce our co-host for the evening. Let's introduce first the man from the Ripperverse. You know him, you love him. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What is going on, Jeff? What is going on, chat? I am back. I don't know if that makes you happy or sad or depressed or angry, whatever it is. Sorry, not sorry, but it's good to be back after a little bit of a vacation, visiting my folks. But I missed you all, whether you missed me or not.
Well, I'm happy to have you back, and you brought a interesting news topic. So tonight, folks, we're going to be talking about that and a lot more. But up next, the man from the Great White North. You know him, you love him. He's the Script Doctor.
Hey, how's it going, eh?
Oh, hoser.
You did that on purpose.
I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. You can't see me shrug here with the circle stuff, but that's what I'm doing.
And finally, folks, again, not from the Great White North, but from the great state of disappointment, aka California. Say hello to Mr. Aaron Sparrow.
I am indeed disappointed. What a state. It's been a beautiful day, but in a terribly run state. So
yeah,
just a few miles from me, a place that I was just over at yesterday. A few hours before I was over there, a homeless man stole somebody's car and dragged him to his death. So great things going on here in Gavin Newsom's California.
which is why Canada has rejected petitions for it to join us as a province.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't even know what to say to that other than wow.
You don't want California's province.
No.
It's been over 2 years since I left, and I don't miss it ever. But I did see on the news that it's projected that they'll have $8.35 gas per gallon. So good luck, Aaron. If you drive a car, it's probably going to bankrupt you.
This is why I mostly work from home. So the only time that I'm going anywhere is either for fun or to hunt toys. So, but I got a broken foot right now, so there's not a lot of toy hunting going on.
So what you're saying is you are feeling the agony of defeat.
Yes, or at least the one.
I need a womp womp. Hold on, I do have a womp womp button. Andrew, I'm sorry, man, but your first minute back on the wait, shit. This is for last.
Yes,
this is what you deserve. Okay,
it was fate.
It was. Here you go.
Sorry, not sorry.
Just turn off this dark fate. We're gonna give somebody a seizure out in the chat. Sorry, folks. There you go. We're back to normal. So, guys, we have a bunch of stuff to cover, a lot of fun stuff to cover. And folks at home, you can play along tonight with all the stuff that we're going to do. Don't go back to California, Shrubbles 08. Just don't do it. So, folks, first off, Andrew, since you're back tonight, after we do the word of the day, we're going to have you bring up your story. So, folks, our show is always sponsored by our friend Shrubbles08. It's the $10.69 super chat. What a great amount. It makes me want to do a Bill and Ted air guitar. But the word of the day is Little Richard. Woo! Star Wars, The Rise of Little Richard. Hot Tub Little Richard Machine. Black Little Richard. He was. How Stella got her Little Richard back, and a fistful of Little Richard.
I was going to say, I felt like one of those was redundant.
I'm just going to go with my go-to and say Big Trouble in Little Richard.
That's a good one. Meet Joe Little Richard. Little Richard up in smoke.
Little Richard.
Tropical Little Richard.
Great balls.
Tropical Richard.
Great balls of Little Richard.
Fighting with my Little Richard. Yes.
Hand that rocks Little Richard.
Ooh. Cornbread, Little Richard, and me.
Honey, I Shrunk Little Richard.
Honey, I Blew Up Little Richard.
I'd see that one.
Honey, we Little Richard ourselves.
Oh,
God, Debbie does.
No.
Troubles 08. That was awesome. Debbie does Little Richard.
Movies count.
There's something about Little Richard.
Backdoor Little Richard's 9. That counts.
What?
Disney Pixar's Inside Little Richard.
There's something about Little Richard.
There is.
Dude, where's my Little Richard?
Going Little Richard. Oh, eating Little Richard. That's a good one too.
Yeah, what's eating Little Richard?
What's eating a little? That's good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Little Richard flew over the cuckoo's nest. All sorts of ones. We have saving Ryan's private Little Richard. This is Little Richard fire. Ouch.
Little Richard fire. Why does it burn when I pee?
Little Richard got fingered.
No.
That's probably just fact.
That's just nobody did that.
In the mouth of Little Richard.
I want somebody in the chat to make us a poster of In the Mouth of Little Richard. Face. Paul says that's called an STD. You're probably correct, Paul, but we don't need to know about. Little Richard has passed on. We're going to let him rest in peace. So
that's rough, man.
Folks, send in all your Little Richard titles all night long. We will read them. You're going to have a lot of hard ones to top. I still want to give a shout out last week to whoever came up with Whopper Texas Ranger. I've been telling people about that in my personal life. Andrew, yeah, the word of the day was Whopper, and we did all the titles, as you know. And God, I think it was Batman Well. He came up with Whopper Texas Ranger, and I went out to see this movie, Fight or Fight this weekend, and I was driving there with my friend. I was like, dude. And I explained to him, and we laughed about Whopper Texas Ranger for 25 minutes straight. Like, it was awesome. So
there's also a multiverse version of that where you do Wapner Texas Ranger out of Judge Wapner from the People's Court.
Did I ever tell you I was on the People's Court?
No. What year?
1998.
Oh, so you were still a kid.
Gosh, you were like 10 years old.
Yeah, and I was also on Judge Mathis in 2010. Now, for the People's Court, I was actually one of the people that were interviewed on the street, or was one of the people interviewed on the street, because I had a New York Islanders jacket. It was my first time to New York City, and we're just walking down the street, and there's Harvey Levin and this crowd of people, and they asked me what I thought of the case because I had a hockey jacket on, and it was a hockey case. So if you can find 10-year-old me on the People's Court, I'd love to see that clip.
So that's when you just hit 6 feet in height.
Chat, right? You have your homework.
That's right.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
WCBS Texas Ranger. Hey, I could go for that too. I just don't have the training yet, but let me get to it. Also, too, I want to make a quick announcement to our friend Taylor Swift. I want to thank everybody who always sends out the links. But folks, the Kickstarter link for Wokebusters really doesn't do much anymore. But you can go to wokebusterscomic.com right now and get the book. People have been buying it. I've been shipping those out. Somebody bought another copy today at like $3.41. And that book was at the post office by 4:30, so they got it out today. So, folks, grab yourselves a copy. I only have the action cover available right now because I kind of made the website in a rush, but I'm going to go back and finish it, include all of the bonus stuff, including the remainder of the trading card. So if you want to get in on the book, let me know. But I've been getting a lot of emails from people that tell me they like the book. So if you're looking to laugh this summer, if the tariffs and all these other things are driving you mad, well, for 90 days you have a reprieve. But if you need something to take your mind off the current climate, well, might I suggest Wokebusters? People call my books Laugh Out Loud Funny, and I got another one for you to laugh at. So folks, that is wokebusterscomic.com right now.
Book looks great.
Thank you.
Every time like I haven't read it yet, but every time you show pictures of it, I'm just like, God, man, your art. I just love how clean and crisp your art style is. That's like one of the things that really appeals to me. It's why I like when the Spider-Man books were hot and everybody was like going nuts over McFarlane, and I loved McFarlane. You know, I loved everybody was on the books at that time, but Alex Saviuk was the guy that always like really stood out to me because his art was so cool.
He's my Facebook friend. That guy's awesome.
He really? He's so cool. Like, I've met him multiple times. He's always at New York Comic Con, and he is like the coolest guy to stop and talk to.
That's cool as heck.
When I was working for Neil Adams, like I've told the story this way. Neil Adams was like the godfather. All the famous artists came up to him. They're like, Neil. And I'm just standing over there like hawking the prints, but I know all these guys' faces. And Alex Saviuk comes over, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And I started talking to him, and I was like, your Spider-Man's great. I love the way you draw Mary Jane. It's like Ramita, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, thanks, man. And we just hit it off. He's like, friend me on Facebook. We'll talk. And I friended him on Facebook, and we've talked, and that's been like 10 years. So thanks, Alex.
That's rad, man.
You're awesome. I thought you were going to say Ramita, because I'm like, I keep my John Ramita book next to me at all time. If I need inspiration for clean line work, I go to the master. because
Yeah, there's just something about it, something about a nice clean line work that it's one of the reasons that Renzo appealed to me on for Kneel Before Doomface is because I was like,
that
his
is
work
a good looking
quaint.
book.
Did you get a chance to go through the preview that I sent you?
Yes, I also follow. I think I'm friends with Renzo on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
as well as I see a lot of stuff posted, and that's one of the projects I'm always excited to check out because one, you're my buddy, but two, I like what I'm seeing. See, I feel like you and I are creating this like third way to make fun of the world we live in through the comic book, because there's always been satire and social commentary in comic books, but it's just very on the nose this time, and it's been a blast to make it and read it. So I hope more people follow suit.
Yeah, no, it's fun. That's why, like I've always said, as soon as I saw your campaign for Wokebusters, I was like, this could exist in the same universe as Doomface, and there would be like no contradictions whatsoever.
It will. I had to take care of a couple of business things with the book, but I'm going to send you a copy and send you that advertisement. We can make that happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna have billboards all through San Francisco for Wokebusters because that city needs it.
Maybe if there's enough demand, there's Wokebusters 2. Wokebusters go to Washington as a joke, but for the third one, they could always go to San Francisco. What'd you call it? San Fran.
San Francisco.
There we go.
San Francisco. Wow,
We're already
a combination of two cities that I do not want to go back to.
Yeah, it's the city is 48%, or it's 49% supervillain, and they're just desperately trying to keep it from tipping over.
We had a superhero team originally in Wokebusters called Social Force Portland. They were kind of like the Ginyu Force and the Power Rangers, but I cut it out of the book because it was like too much. Because the book's already 100 pages, and I thought, what are they gonna do? Fight this? Like, how are they gonna fight them? Like, what are they gonna do? So, folks, if you're curious about Social Force Portland, I made it as a bonus page in the back of the book. So if you want to read,
sounds like you have
scene,
something for the sequel.
Yeah.
Or just
I don't know, man.
Social
Social
Force,
Force
really.
You sold me on it's being like a ripoff of Ginyu Force. I'm sold.
Yeah, because we've got the Social Justice League in Kneel
And in
Before
fact,
Doomface.
you can have connecting covers that's each different member of it. And so if you line them up perfectly on the ground together, they all do a stupid pose.
Do the X-Men gatefold cover with all of the Social Justice Force, and then in the corner you've got the where Magneto would be on the Jim Lee cover. It's the Wokebusters, blasting them.
Well, shit. Now now you make me want to do a sequel. I'm
You're
keeping this feeling
welcome.
solo.
Yes, this is the point.
Oh, there was no way where I was going to stop doing any of this shit. All I needed was a weekend to recharge the batteries, go see a movie, and now I'm back to it. So, folks, check it out. Yeah, well, I'm excited, man. We got to do a stream specifically for this kind of stuff. Maybe we'll go hang out on Thinking Critical and talk about more of this stuff.
Yeah, well, Wes is on
Just
vacation.
talk about comic books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, Wes is on vacation. I'm going to be running the Aficionados show for 2 Saturdays. So, yeah, please come on and join us. Andrew, you want to come on and talk some comics?
I'd be happy to talk some comics.
Just remind me the dates, because I have a new calendar I've been living by, taking care of business. So I'd love to be there.
Right on.
Now, folks, we're going to start off tonight's show with a bang. Not that kind of bang, sorry. But Tom Cruise is in the news. And Andrew, you mentioned this. And,
Yeah.
Well, since you brought it up, why don't you tell the audience what's going on with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, so Tom Cruise, along with the rest of his, co-hosts or his cast members for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, as well as Christopher McQuarrie, the director, they were all in this, big interview and whatnot. And somebody asked a question regarding, because for those of you who are not aware, President Trump put out a message. What was it, on Truth Social or Twitter? One of those.
One of those on
saying,
Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, he was positing the idea of instilling tariffs on films that are filmed outside of the U.S. or something like that. And after we go through this article script, I'd love to get your thoughts, because maybe you have some further insight than certainly I would, because you're the industry guy here and the most knowledgeable when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
Sure.
But he was asked, the Mission Impossible franchise is very often filmed all over the world, right? And Tom Cruise kind of does that with just about all of his movies. Like, he makes no two bones about it. He'll go wherever it needs to be best for the film, right? Best for the shot. Doesn't care. He'll do it. and he'll do something crazy in the film usually as well, which is why people like him. But this person in the audience, or it was either somebody in the audience or one of the journalists, asked him like, hey, so like with these tariffs, how is that going to affect the film? What are your thoughts on it? That type of thing. And he just kind of like deflected right away from it and was like, I would prefer to answer questions about the movie, right? Specifically regarding just like the film itself, rather than like something that is, you know, potentially tangentially connected to it like that. And this, to me, what stood out to me about this is that Tom Cruise, anybody that's followed him for any length of time, knows that he doesn't get involved in this stuff, at least not publicly. Right? He just promotes his movie, right? Just wants to promote the movie, always thanks the fans online, and that's it. Everything for his social media is just promoting a film or thanking fans for going to see a film, things like that. The man is just a worker and an entertainer and understands his role in that regard and doesn't try to like mix all this political stuff when it comes to his entertainment. He knows that he is here to entertain, and he wants people to just go to see the movies that he makes, right? And this, to me, was just kind of like very emblematic of that attitude that I've seen in him for years. And it was really cool to see because it was reaffirming, because to this day, so many people in Hollywood, music, sports, wherever, pick your poison, really, right? We don't even need to go into comics, that's for sure. You know, just they think that because they are some entertainer, that also means they need to preach to people about whatever the hell their politics, their social beliefs are, left, right, center, whatever. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. I don't care. That's not why I watch you. That's not why I read your stuff. That's not why I root for the team that you're a part of or whatever. You are just here to entertain me. I don't need to be preached at. And Tom Cruise is one of the last remaining bastions of that kind of older era in Hollywood, where he's a true movie star and he understands that he's here just to do his job, right? And to do it to the best of his ability and produce something that he believes is entertaining, that he believes in, and he hopes other people do as well. And I wish, and I hope and I pray that more people can like get back to that. The worry is that there's no script. We've talked about this so many times on the show. There aren't any movie stars anymore, really.
That's
right? And so like who's picking up that mantle? Who was on the bench, right? That was taking notes. Who is the Tom Brady taking notes from Drew Bledsoe, right? Saying, oh, you know what? All right, so I need to pay attention to this. I need to do that and to learn that is, you know, really taking it all in and understanding how to act, and not act in the terms of like in front of the camera, but act and present yourself, right? To your potential audience, to people, the general people. No blue collar or most white collar people give two rips about who you voted for or any of that other stuff. Just like they want to watch your TV show if they like your TV show. Or they want to go see your movie if they like the stuff that you do. It really doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And Tom Cruise does still understand this. In 2025, he is one of the very few people that... Okay, so script, I do acknowledge also that you've said there's a lot of people in Hollywood, actually. The breakdown of people who are either whatever, far left or right or whatever, is actually more even than we're led to believe. And that's because most of those other people just put their heads down and they work. They just do their thing, right? And so I would say of the people who are very front-facing, right? People who are in the public eye and quite significantly, like a Tom Cruise, of that kind of class of entertainer, Tom Cruise is kind of the very few who do it. And I'm glad that he did that, because, you know, that's actually not... That's him avoiding shooting himself in the foot and shooting his movie in the foot, because the last one underperformed, unfortunately. I really liked it, but it underperformed. And so I'm really hoping that this one kind of does gangbusters. And not just because he did this, but because Mission Impossible is my favorite movie franchise. So, Script, I don't know what further insights you might have on this tariff business when it comes to the movies, because all it was just like a tweet saying the movie industry is blah 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 failing, yada yada, and I'm thinking about imposing tariffs on movies made outside the U.S., which obviously anybody with their head screwed on straight knows that doesn't actually fix the problem.
No.
No. I mean, it was a laughable tweet. It came out Sunday. Monday morning, I had to fire 4 executives within our company who basically blinked at it because they didn't know how movies are made. We also then got a consultant from a law firm, a very, very prestigious law firm, which I think I'm allowed to tell. Maybe I can. I don't know. It's let's go ahead. A&O Shearman. They deal a lot with tariff law. They're also actually represented Donald Trump before, and they know a little bit about him. And one of their associates was with us for a couple of days consulting because we had questions because I know how movies are made, and I also know where they're technically made, and how not a single product made in Hollywood would ever be subject to a tariff because there's certain stipulations within the harmonized tariff schedule. And one of the big ones there, especially when it comes to optical recorded media or recorded audio media, is about where does the final transformation occur, and wherever that occurs is considered as point of origin. And it's very similar with regards to like cars. So a lot of parts can be made in Canada, the United States, but they could be assembled in Mexico as the sum of its parts into a final product, and then exported from Mexico to the United States, which case would be subjected to a complete tariff, where the parts that are going back and forth, because those parts can be used in other vehicles aside from just a specific model, that would also be considered tariffable as well. But with film, you're dealing with raw footage. It's like a raw resource. And because it's not physically made that way anymore, especially when you're shooting abroad, it has no import function, even through wireless transmission, like how it's done on the cloud servers or through any other type of internet means, or even if they wanted to go old school and do it through like over the air waves or radio waves with satellite technology, there's no way you can actually quantify its value because it's not a thing yet. And while Donald Trump is very much has the ability and power to say, put a tariff on an export, I don't think that's really in his agenda, because why would he want to put a tariff on exports of U.S. goods to other countries? The only way that such a tariff angle would apply would be to foreign films and anime being imported to the United States for distribution, but mostly in physical media. Again, on broadcast, that would complicate things. It was really just a scare tactic to see who knows how to make movies and who doesn't. And I was laughing at it all the time because I'm like, that's not possible. What I am hoping is that he listens to John Voight, because John Voight made an announcement saying that it's not enough that you use tariff in that word. It's better to actually have tax incentives and financial incentives throughout the rest of the United States so that you can keep shooting domestically. But even in that case, you're still limited because, well, there's weather conditions, and as vast as the United States is and has quite a diverse ecosphere, there are places where you can stretch your dollar more outside of the United States, even in some of the cheapest states out there, that is just you can't compete with. And I also laughed a lot at the national security aspect, because the tax credits are not specific to United States shooting in any other countries, to anybody. Like if someone in South Africa wanted to shoot a feature film in the UK, they would qualify for the exact same tax credits that Disney does. Like it's not exclusive. So I thought it was pretty funny. The only way you could ever really tariff something is if they purchased film equipment overseas and then imported that into the United States because it was connected to, like, say, hard drives or camera equipment or lenses. That'd be subjected to a tariff. And even if it was 100% tariff, you're looking at, I don't know, like $5,000, which is like nothing for a film production. Even if you were to add a ton of gear, yeah, like it just means nothing. It doesn't, like, the principle with how Hollywood works is that it is immaterial where something is filmed. It only matters on where is it put together into its final form. And almost every Hollywood movie is made somewhere in the United States in its editing. And
well,
it wouldn't be subject to any tariff. But if you wanted to fix the problem, first part is you have to basically pull out all the bureaucracy in California so that you can actually shoot in California, or you allow other states to get some sort of subsidy from the government so that they can afford tax credits so that productions will go there, because productions spend those tax credits on the local businesses.
What you do is you it's the same thing as with just about everything. Like this is obviously this is not a political show, but just to very lightly touch on that. If the goal is to bring production and assembly and jobs back here, you have to incentivize having the infrastructure for it. And so that goes for like toys. Jeff can speak on this. Toy manufacturing is exclusively just about overseas, at least at scale. Like at significant scale, you're not going to get that here. You could have every single big toy company based in the US tomorrow say, you know what? We're going to do all of our manufacturing here. No, you're not. There's no infrastructure for it. What you can do when it comes to something like movies, at the very least, is you can incentivize, like you were saying, Script, you can incentivize some sort of tax credits, things like that. It also helps the economy of those individual states, cities, and areas that those productions are going to, because I would presume people are spending money, therefore, at local businesses and things like that. Yeah. That helps the economy along in those locations. Obviously, you can then extend that to like toy manufacturers and things, give them incentive, make there an incentive for there to be, infrastructure put in place here in the States, but to keep it within the film industry, like just why overcomplicate it? No, just make it make sense. Make there be a good reason for people to want to do it here. Right now, there isn't.
No, I mean, aside from Kentucky, New Mexico, Florida, Chicago, and Atlanta, Georgia, those are like the top states that actually have great incentives for it. To your point with regards to like toy manufacturing, actually, you could make the plastic toys here. You can't paint them though, because there's a lot of health and safety regulations with the types of the paints that are used. That's why most of them have been sent.
We have to rely on underage Chinese kids.
Well, let's do it in Montana. There's nobody in Montana. It's just skies.
Right, there's like
there's 16, do it there.
There's 16 people and a few buffalo, right? Like who's gonna care?
Right. Just Harrison Ford crashing his plane. That's the only thing that's there. I don't propose that. I don't think it's good that movies definitely should not come back and shoot in California, because there's a good chance that your staff or your actors will be stabbed, or dragged to their deaths.
It's a problem.
Try not to shoot in California.
Buy their stolen vehicle.
I suggest that everybody shoot everything in Atlanta. You want to talk about a diverse range of locations. There's a Peachtree Grove. There's a back alley. They have a wonderful Hooters. Just all kinds of. I don't think anybody knows what I'm doing. I'm doing a Pete Holmes bit, but it's so funny, because the other thing is everybody panics over everything Trump says. And if you just step back and you take a moment and look at the history of Trump, he says a lot of things, and he says a lot of things to wind the media up. Yep. And he plays the media like a fiddle. They panic and they kvetch and they clutch their pearls and they hand wring over every single thing he says. And a lot of it is just stuff that he's throwing out there to get them all worked up. So he's over here doing this thing. It's like it's misdirection, and they fall for it every single time.
It's wrestling kayfabe in politics, and when you figure out that's what he's doing, you're like, oh, he's basically trying to feel out who are the people that are competent and who are the ones that are incompetent. The competent people I have to negotiate with. The incompetent people I can just steamroll over. And that's basically what he's doing, which is why I was laughing like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at this whole tariff thing, and seeing people who make way more money than I, who are in positions that I don't ever want, freaking out. I'm like, yeah, you've just exposed yourself as not being useful at all in your studio. And if the person at top knows what I know about making movies, your days are numbered. And that's going to be a good thing. So I thought it was absolutely hysterical.
Sift the wheat from the chaff.
Yes. The only bad news is that I've spent the last week trying to find 4 replacement producers who know how to make movies, because I had to fire them last week.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. Interviewing process has been rather entertaining.
Entertaining, he says. That's a way to describe it.
Oh yeah. Every chance they could say, "Oh, I hate this person, I hate that person." It's like, well, you're not going to be a good team player.
Yeah. But guys,
I don't understand.
what were
are
y'all's
the-
thoughts on this?
Tom did the right move, man. Like, keep it focused on the movie. Don't. The media is what hates on fans more than any celebrity, actor, or executive. Because when you take a look at
The
all
media
quotes-
wants a clip. The media wants something,
Yeah.
right?
exactly, and they're trying to manipulate it. It's like they'll take the most innocuous phrase from an actor who's trying to navigate a question that is definitely above their pay grade, and then the media will be like, yeah, he doesn't like Star Wars fans. And when you take a look at the full transcript, he doesn't, the actor doesn't say anything to that nature. Even John Boyega recently, he's trying to support his co-star Rey with her stuff. And the media on the trade side is manipulating into that. Is like, oh yeah, Rey was very oppressed. Nobody really liked her because of identity, whatever ticking was. It's like, no, that's not it. It's like Daisy Ridley is a very beautiful woman. She's a charming enough actress, but she was put into a story that was definitely not worthy of her talent nor the talent of anyone else in that film. And the fact that the audience could disassociate those two, but the trades couldn't. And then, sadly, a lot of people out on the internet are assuming that what the trades are doing is actually representative of the talent in itself. And so they're saying, oh, I hate this actor, I hate this producer, what have you. And it's like, no, they literally do not think about fans in that way at all. Like, it just doesn't cross their mind. It's like, I'm trying to tell the best story I can. Their perspective of what a best story is could be completely skewed and asked backwards. But I mean, they're not trying to do it to like goad certain people. However, there are a couple of executives I know out there that are, and they're hiring people who have no clue that that's what their agenda is. And those writers and team and actors and producers and directors are just trying to tell a great story that fits into their perspective, completely devoid of the ideas like, oh yeah, this is going to upset a lot of people, a lot of the people on the base or anything of that nature. I would say the Lucasfilm Story Group, they are very much intent on messing with the fans, because they are fans themselves, but they're the fans that you wouldn't want to represent a franchise.
They're the Tumblr fan fiction type of fans.
Yeah, they're the Tumblr or Redditors and all
the worst
that
type,
that
you
are
mean.
scum.
Yeah, like
just
they're the
molded
types
into
of
their
people,
own image.
They're like, or sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll say this. They're the types of people who I would say is, when you argue that fans need to have more control of the franchise, they're the warning sign as to why that's not the case.
Right.
Because again, it all comes down to who gets to pick which fans represent that stuff. When you have someone like Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni, that's who you get. If you got someone like George Lucas, well, you'd still get Dave Filoni, but you might get Rick McCallum. Maybe you get Gary Kurtz for a short time until he pushes so back that he gets silently fired from the franchise. Like,
well, you get you have Dave Filoni, but then you also have George there to go, no, we're not doing that.
George rarely ever did no part, which is also kind of sad because he was excited. But then you have someone like Sam Witwer. But the thing is with Sam Witwer is that at his turning point when he was like a kid fan to becoming an actor, he took the road less traveled, where basically he's like, I'm focusing on an actor. I'm going to understand storytelling. I'm going to understand that stuff. And when I come back to Star Wars, I've now got this new knowledge from all these other genres and all these other stories that I can now better interpret the thing I loved most as a kid and then articulate it well as an adult. Because when you hear his interviews, when he's talking about the strange behavior of Luke Skywalker and all that stuff, it's way more profound than what you get on all those various, Star Wars channels that are trying to copy Star Wars theory. He's one of the most
knowledgeable. He's one of the most knowledgeable Star Wars fans that actually understands it on a more intellectual level rather than just an emotional level. And it's not that he doesn't also have emotional attachment to the characters and you can tell he's also approaching it from an intellectual angle.
Yeah,
right. And so that's why he's able to.
Yeah.
No, of course.
I'm throwing shade on the people that are trying to copy him.
Yeah.
That's what I want to make sure people
who copies him.
Oh,
I'm curious. Like, is there a market for that?
I mean, almost every of the big channels has some sort of copycat out there. I mean, it's just the nature of the game, right? They think, oh, if I could do the same thing as what all these other bigger channels do, I'll get the same audience. And even some will get a good size, and then some won't get any of them.
But none of them are world class.
No,
that's true, but they're all bullshit.
No, it's funny. I actually applied for Pablo Hidalgo's job in publishing back in the day. I had a
Oh,
friend that
really?
I had a friend that was working at Lucasfilm, and he had recommended me to publishing because they were looking for somebody to kind of be like the lore master for all the publishing stuff that was coming in. And I got pretty far in the process until they decided that they wanted to go with somebody who had a higher level of education. So, like formal education on paper. And that was the end of that. But man, can you imagine how different? I mean, I would have been fired by now under Kathleen Kennedy's regime. Can you imagine how different things would have been if I would have got that job?
Oh man,
There would be
dude,
no Neil before Doomface, though.
It's true.
I
It's
got,
like I go out and I create my own thing.
if I got the rewrite job for Rogue One, that movie would have been way better. Because my agent at the time sent in my pitch, because everything is before Tony Gilroy got his hands on it. They went to everybody. They're like, yeah, Rogue One's not working right now. It's really rough. Gareth Edwards, we love him, but he's just not making it nailed. Can you come in and fix this? And everybody was given like the bullet points of what the problems were, which is basically like the narrative is kind of too contrived. And then it's like, okay, write your one pager, send it in. And then I got nothing back. And then my agent pushed harder. And then we finally got a letter saying, we really enjoyed your one pager, but we decided to go into a different direction using a person with a bit more notable credentials than your particular client. Oh, thank you so much. And I had to fight tooth and nail just to get that letter because he kept it from me for like over a year.
One thing I wanted to ask Andrew in regards to this Tom Cruise thing that we kind of fell off with real quick is, you mentioned the last one kind of flopped. I don't think it was a bad movie whatsoever. Do you think this one's
Not
gonna
flop,
pick
but
back up?
it did underperform for sure.
Do you think there's a market for Mission Impossible still, or do you think this next one's gonna have the same fate?
I guess I have to approach that question from two different angles. One, and obviously there's the very subjective one, which is that's my favorite movie franchise and I want to see it do well. I do hope that this is, regardless of if it does $2 billion or if it just barely makes a profit, I think it's time to close the book, let it be. This one can be the last one and we can move on. Tom's getting old, and to be honest, I don't want to see anybody else in that role until I am in my 70s, honestly.
Well, he
and
made
then
up the Ethan Hunt role. So if you do Mission Impossible, you just come up with another agent. You're good to go.
And I guess you could do that. I guess I don't want to see something else called Mission Impossible for a good hot minute after this one. I hope that this one is stellar. I hope it does extremely well. I hope it reinvigorates people's love for movies. And I hope it brings a lot of business to the box office. I hope it gets a lot of people, a lot of butts in the seats, people enjoying going to the movie theaters with their families, with their friends, whatever, significant others, and having a good time. I do think this one is going to do better than the last one. However, I don't know how much better, to be honest.
I've seen the trailer, and then when I went and saw Thunderbolts in IMAX, I got a different trailer, and I'm not opposed to it because I love the Mission Impossible movies, but I'm only going to watch this out of obligation to see how it ends. I feel like they have overstayed their welcome, not in a negative way to the point where I'm like angry, but I'm just like, oh, I will watch this movie. And then I don't really want to see or think about Mission Impossible anymore outside of the TV show. Because let's be completely honest too, and I hate to sound negative because I do like these things, they're very similar. Outside of the one with Henry Cavill, the last few, it's like, what's different? Well, he's at the Burj Khalifa. Oh, he's here. He's there. But every movie is... Yeah. It's globetrotting. He runs. He does this. He does that. He has a woman that he's not romantically involved with, but he's really intense with her. Like, I love Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. He's not my favorite actor at all, but I have a lot of respect for what he does for the art. And this one just... I think we... And this is, remember folks, this is me, the guy that wakes up to play GoldenEye, that loves spy and espionage and wants to create this type of stuff. I think we're kind of beyond that. Like Westerns Westerns never went away, but Westerns slowed down production.
Yep.
I think we're in this period of where the spy espionage type of action movie should take a little break.
And that's entirely fair. That's entirely, but it could be a genre thing.
Well, I think like John Wick works because John Wick is over the top and violent. This movie I saw this weekend, Fight or Flight.
John Wick is very different. It's a brutal, in your face.
But I think that's what's in vogue right now. Is this brutal, in your face, over the top? Like I had been thinking of this for years, and I'm glad Hollywood did it before me. Honestly, I'm saying this. I always wanted to see an action movie that was like a Friday the 13th, where you don't go to watch a Friday the 13th movie for the story. You go to watch it for the tits and the kills. And so maybe John Wick doesn't have tits in it, thankfully, but it's got a ton of great kills. Like you could count the headshots. Dude gets killed with a pencil. All these epic things. I think that's what audience wants. The audience wants high emotion. And Mission Impossible is great, but like, how many times is Tom Cruise hanging from an airplane or hanging from a submarine or hanging from a motorcycle?
At
really
least once more, Jeff. At least once more.
While what's his name from what Simon Pegg goes like, oh, he's doing the thing. Oh, Ethan, what are you doing?
I'm waiting for Ethan Hunt to disarm a nuclear missile in mid-flight. You know, just he's on the side of that.
Captain America, that's how he ends. He's like on the missile, like bashing it with something, and then he just goes into the Arctic and he's frozen until they decide to bring him back.
Well.
And then we do Mission Impossible in the future. You know, it's like the year's 2040, and you know, Ethan Hunt.
Dude, Mission Impossible 2088.
I'm wondering if he actually dies at the end of this one.
I think he does.
I have a feeling, at least, and maybe the trailers are a misdirect. But based on the trailers, it makes me think that he dies at the end. And I kind of hope he doesn't.
I hope he doesn't.
I would like for him to just kind of like retire and move on.
Yeah,
like let it end.
Here's the misnomer of a lot of young writers think about when they say, "Oh, you die a hero, you live long enough to become a coward." It doesn't mean that you have to die heroically. It just means that you can die a peaceful death. You can die with friends, family, loved ones within you because you're still that hero. You haven't turned into a villain yet. We've already seen a spy or a derivative of a spy, because I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Daniel Craig Bonds after Casino Royale, but he already died at the end of that movie. We've seen that now. Yeah. Do we really want to see Tom Cruise trying to do that, even if he manages to pull it off better?
No, because Ethan Hunt's still a likable character.
Right.
Yeah. Daniel Craig's Bond wasn't at that point.
Yeah, Ethan Hunt hasn't become a cuck. So
there is something you can criticize some of the Mission Impossible film entries for different things at different points. One thing, at least in my opinion, that you can't call the weakest link is Tom Cruise's performance as Ethan.
Right.
That's fair. That's.
However, I would love to see a revival of the television series come back, because that original series from the 60s, it was very tense because it was all about not trying to get caught, not trying to have elaborate stunts. It was all about the subterfuge and the things that were behind it. But I do enjoy what Tom Cruise brought extra to it.
Or maybe do kind of with Mission Impossible what was done with what was it? Jack Ryan? Is that the one that they wound up doing a TV series for that was pretty solid? Yeah, do that. Like wait a handful of years and then like put that on, I don't know, whatever streaming service.
It'd be Paramount Plus, because Paramount owns Mission Impossible.
Yeah, so put that on Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus, Lord knows, it needs something that is, it needs something
besides Taylor Sheridan.
But it's got Lower Decks coming. Come on.
And it had Halo.
I thought that series ended.
It did. I think after the second season, they canceled it. Thank God. But yeah, do that. I'd be up for that. And specifically with in mind them saying, okay, we're doing this as more of a homage and revival of the old, what was it? Was it the 60s? When was the TV show? The original series,
60s, right?
Was it okay? I thought it was the 60s, but as more of a callback.
Revival like in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
well, do it more like that.
Cosby Show and got creamed.
Do it more like that and have it be more spy, and that also allows you to make it more low budget, right? Yep. So that when you're putting on a streaming service, you're keeping your budget very managed, right? And then you're also not looking like you're just trying to copy the movies that have only not been a thing anymore for like a few years, right? Because I hate when they do that. It's like, guys, like, why are we calling this a big refresh when it was only like 5 minutes ago that we had the last one, right? That's annoying. I don't need that. I would totally be down for a series like that. And then get some, I guess you could bring in some talented named actors, but bring in some fresh faces.
Oh yeah, you could I would actually like to see Ving Rhames in the series for a couple of episodes here and there.
Ving Rhames is amazing.
He is a really good actor, and so many people think that he's not. Like general audience wise think that he's not, but he is
so
really
good.
He is incredible.
Didn't he win an Emmy like in the early 2000s for playing a lady or something like that? Like he won some kind of award in the early 2000s.
He definitely has a number of awards. I know he's like a really accomplished stage actor as well. And it's just because he can do that big, tough exterior that people are like, oh, he's just playing like the one note. It's like, no. He knows how to play actual stuff.
No, he has a good range, but you can tell he has fun with the Mission Impossible films.
I love his Arby's commercials. They never make me hungry, but I just love to chuckle at his voice. We have the meats.
The SNL skit about that, where he actually comes out of the back room and he's like, he's talking to the people that are there, and they're like, "Are you in the back room of every Arby's?" And he's like, "Yes, I am." And he just keeps going on about like how we have the meats, and they're like, "Yes, but like you're offering like 5 1-pound roast, or 5 quarter-pound roast beef sandwiches for $5, and I'm looking up roast beef right now, and it's $10.99 a pound. How are you doing this?" And he's like, "We got the meats," and they're like, "Yes, but where are you getting the meats, and what kind of meat is it?"
It's not real roast beef. I hate to tell thing. Does anyone actually here eat Arby's? Because
no,
I can't
no.
anymore. Oh.
Hang on, let me call Perch. And bring him in.
Hey,
really?
Send him a link.
One of these days, I'd like to chat with Perch about comics, but
Same here.
I don't watch every single one that he puts out, but I've watched a lot of them, and he's a pretty insightful guy.
Anybody that wants to make comic content is instantly going to get a view from me, because there's not enough people.
Because comic content doesn't usually get views.
I know, it's sad, and that's why I don't make anything about it, because I gotta work, so I gotta live. Like, why the hell am I gonna make videos that like a person's gonna watch? But I have respect for everybody that makes them, because like, cheap plug, like Strange Brain Parts. You guys ever heard of that guy?
No.
If you want somebody that does, like, I'm a big fan of the Silver Age books, so he goes into like Steve Ditko stuff, Stan Lee stuff, and he breaks it down like who actually created this, and it's a really well thought out essay every time he makes a video. So there's a plug for another channel that I'm not affiliated with, folks, but I recommend it. Strange Brain Parts. His comic stuff is very good. Aaron, I think you'll appreciate it too, as a fan of the entire medium from every era.
Yeah, I will check it out.
Sorry to cut you off, Andrew. What were you saying, man?
I was just gonna say, I think at this point, the only sandwich place I go to and get food from is Jersey Mike's.
New Jersey Michael's is my favorite. We need a sponsorship from them, folks. Obviously, Ollie's is going to sponsor us one. It's funny. I'm friends with that guy, Larry Bundy. He's pretty prominent online. He's cool. Larry and I talk about toys a lot. He's like, you got to get Ollie's to sponsor you. I feel like Ollie should sponsor us because of all the videos I make about their damn stores. We have people from foreign lands that want to go to Ollie's. We make it look like this golden place, this wonderful wonderland of toys and discounts. Ollie's is pretty cool if you live by one. But unless you're me going to go make videos about it, don't drive like 200 miles to go to Ollie's, because it'll be the exact same shit that's in my videos at every Ollie's across the country. 300 Shurikopters, 500 Reva figures, and maybe a smattering of those Return of the Jedi Emperor action figures. But Aaron, I'm going to be making a trip to Ollie's on the 26th. I'm going up to start the annual road trip. So if there's anything you're on the lookout for, let me know, because I can actually make it happen. I'll be hitting like 10 Ollie's in a single day.
I'm gonna have to go through your videos and be like, okay, what's on the shelves there that I want. Basically, I want any of the Indiana Jones figures that they've got there, even the supporting cast.
I got Senior the other day.
Not Helena Shaw. Yeah, I saw that. I asked Doc, and he was like, "My Ollie's only has Helena Shaw," and I was like, "No." And then he was like, "What if
she's not a real character?"
He goes, "What about when she goes down to $5?" And I was like, "Still no." Like, there's not even anything I can customize out of that figure.
Literally, I wouldn't take one for free. I bought the Shurikopters as a joke, but Helena Shaw and Rey and all these characters that Ollie's has a bunch of, like, I'm afraid to open our P.O. box because I'm afraid somebody's going to just be like, hey, Jeff, you want those Eternals disc launchers? Here's 100 of them.
Oh, my God.
Here's 800 Helena Shaws.
Yeah, put them all in a big fish aquarium like Red Letter Media did with some old Star Wars figures, and then just
acetone.
Just put acetone in there. Just watch them break down.
I have a friend who's a firearms expert, and he has this stuff called tannerite. We could take it out. We could take all these Star Wars toys and shit that people send out to this farm and just shoot tannerite and explode these action figures. Like, you want to see Rose Tico turned into a bonfire? We can do it. Some people would call it a hate crime. It's a toy, so you're stupid if you say that.
It'd be better if you got.
I would call you stupid if you said that.
What was that script?
It'd be better if you managed to get Kelly Marie Tran to join you in on the fun.
Right.
We have a big enough channel that she might. I just don't know how to contact her. She might think we're a hater. It's like, look, lady, I don't care. I thought the movie sucked. It ain't your fault. So
Yeah.
just
Ryan
like let's
Johnson
make
was
fun
trying
of
to
people.
get in her
I think it's
Nobody
annoying
had a
they made
problem.
you look like a potato sack instead of, what you are.
Yeah, give her a cool outfit, give her a jetpack, make her a toy that kids actually want to play with. Don't give her that stupid haircut. Like when
Oh,
I
God,
said, I've
yeah.
said multiple times.
They gave her
when I
freaking
saw
Miss
her,
Swan's haircut practically.
Yeah, and I said when I saw her on the red carpet and she was so excited and talking about the movie and everything, I was rooting for her. I really was. And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh, that poor girl. Like they set her up to fail. They set everybody in this movie up to fail. This entire movie is a fail, all the way around. And now the franchise is a fail. And that was where I said, we walked out of the theater and my buddy was like, I could feel like the anger like coming off of you through that whole movie. And I was like, well, what did you think? And he's like, oh, that sucked. And this is a guy that we had gone to since I think maybe since Attack of the Clones, we had gone to every midnight showing of every Star Wars movie, even like that Clone Wars movie that they did. We had gone to the midnight
Oh,
showing.
the animated one.
Yeah, and that was the
That one had
last
limited
one.
theatrical release too, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And that was I told him, I said, that is the last Star Wars movie that I will pay to see. And I never paid for another one.
Tonight when we play our game, we will not be covering the Clone Wars movie because we're doing bracket style. It's called bracket battle here on this channel now. We're gonna do like we did on the Thursday night show, where we try to figure out what the best Star Wars movie is, but they're only live action. It's gonna include shows as well, so it's the best live action Star Wars because some might like the Clone Wars, some might make the Bad Batch. We're doing live action. It's gonna be everything from the original Star Wars through Andor, and you guys can vote if you're a member.
Oh, wow,
We'll
okay.
include your vote. Yeah, we did it this week for the.
I'm excited.
We did it for 90s blockbusters, and it was a huge success, and tons of people in the chat were having fun with it. So I thought, the guys want to take a break for a week, but you guys haven't played it, and tonight's the season finale of Andor, and I thought we can tie into all that shit, because I'm not watching the show yet. I'll sit down, maybe have like 12 beers, watch 12 episodes of Star Wars, maybe by the time I'm done, order a pizza, I'll be a little lucid, just I'll feel good, and I don't have to think about the show. Like,
I love that
altered
none of
states.
what you just said had anything to do with actually enjoying the show as a thing
Buddy,
of whether or not it's quality.
You've streamed with me
That
for
says
years. You
everything
know how
I
I
need
feel.
to know.
I'm just glad you didn't say pop open some heroin so I can make through it to the end.
No. I don't want to ruin my life. I just want to have a good time.
No, I respect it. I respect it. It's funny, like, and actually pretty appropriate that we'd be doing that this week because, like, actually for the last 4 or 5 days, I've been, for whatever reason, even though I'm not consuming anything that's new Star Wars right now until like the next Jedi Fallen Order sequel comes out, whatever the third one's going to be named. Aside from that, I'm not consuming any new Star Wars stuff, but I've had this weird itch and kick to where I've been going through like old lore videos from like Theory and Stupendous Wave and things like that. And just like while I'm working, just having like 4 or 6 hour compilation videos of just lore on Star Wars going on.
You and I must like exist on the same wavelength. I've taken it a little different. The other day, so what I do in the morning is I usually ride this exercise bike and watch action movies. But the other week I put on Star Wars. And I hadn't really sat down to watch Star Wars in a while because this channel, I love it. I'm not going to say anything negative about the fans, the channel, anything I get to do. But it's opened my eyes to garbage movies, especially Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is 2 perfect movies, a really good movie, a pretty good movie, and I can forget the rest. So I popped on the original film on 4K, and it's not perfect because it's got McClunky and all this other bullshit in it. But it like sparked... I reminded myself why I love this shit. So not only did I rewatch the original film, I have not watched The Empire Strikes Back in literally years. Like, since I've moved back to Ohio, I haven't watched The Empire Strikes Back once. So I put it on, and I was like, why don't I watch this regularly? So I'm like back in the spirit of all this shit. I got my Luke Skywalker that I picked up not that long ago, and I'm reminding myself of why I enjoy these things. And it feels good. Like, I watched a commercial from 1995 about the videotape release, and I'm like, oh shit, one last time, here we go. That was 30 years ago. But I'm excited like I would have been as a kid. So while I'm not changing my tune on any of this stuff, and I really can't Look, if I have Disney Plus, it's to watch King of the Hill because I don't have Hulu anymore. Like, I don't watch any of this shit.
I
so-
think it's important to be, and I've said this before, I think it's important to be able to acknowledge that we do love Star Wars. What the current IP holder of the property is doing with it is crap. But that doesn't mean we don't still love all the other stuff that came before, or the stuff that came before that we enjoy, right? Because Jeff, you and I have different tastes when it comes to Star Wars stuff. You actually don't.
We'll find out soon.
You don't care that much about like the Jedi versus Sith stuff as much as you like some of the other stuff. Whereas me, that's my bread and butter. That's where I live. Like that's how you're gonna hook me, right?
If it isn't Han Solo, I really don't want to watch it. I think, like with wrestling, and we'll just pick that back to Star Wars. It's like if it's got Harrison Ford in it in general, I'm there. Like I've liked Harrison Ford since I was a little kid. I saw The Fugitive when it first hit videotape, and my grandma used to watch Harrison Ford movies. I'm like, that guy's cool. And then I discovered Star Wars. I'm like, holy shit, it's that guy again. And then Indiana Jones, and then I finally learned what his name was. And I think I have more Harrison Ford action figures than most people that exist. So I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. There's one under this desk, and I'm not going to pick it up right now. But you know
Do you
what?
have the NECA figure from Blade Runner 2049?
No, because I've never seen Blade Runner 2049.
It's still a Harrison Ford figure. We got to get you that one.
I need to get it. I have... Okay, up on this shelf, we got a Sideshow Indiana Jones. We have a SH Figure Arts Indiana Jones. We have a Mezco Indiana Jones. I have a lot of Indiana Jones. Like, when I was, Aaron, growing up, because I grew up, okay, I was born in the late 80s. There was not a single Indiana Jones action figure released till I was 20 years old. But I always wanted one as a kid. So I had this Micro Machines, like, little figurine. It was about this big. And I was like, yeah, I got my Indiana Jones toy. And I would play with it, and then I lost it. I was like, shit. So years went by, and I got one. And the floodgates opened, and I buy everything. If it's not Dial of Destiny Indiana Jones, I own it. Because I have limits, folks.
So when I was a kid, that's when they did the first line of Indiana Jones figures. And you would go to Toys R Us, and all they had was like Marion in her dress, the German mechanic, and Tote. That's all that were ever there. Because for some reason, the toy company decided to pack the villains heavier than Indiana Jones. And so...
Okay, sorry.
No, so yeah, so like he was impossible to find. Now I did have a friend who had everything, like the Well of Souls, like every play set and things like that. So I would go to his house, and that was when I got to play Indiana Jones. But I was in the same boat as you. I wanted an Indiana Jones figure the whole time, you know, and then when those movies came back out and Hasbro did that line where they did everything, but unfortunately they started with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because that was the movie that was out. So by the time they were getting to the good movies, sales were slowing down. Target and Walmart weren't ordering them because they still had all this Kingdom of the Crystal Skull stuff. You know, they still had tons of Mutt Williams on the shelf. And so by the time the one that I really wanted figures for, which was Temple of Doom, came out, it was almost impossible to get.
Did I ever tell you how I found those?
No, tell me.
I worked for 7-Up in the summer of 2008. I used to go to every grocery store in the local area. Kroger had Temple. I was working there at a Kroger, and Kroger had like 3 waves of Temple of Doom figures, like 3 full sets. I bought them all. So I got them, and I have 2 sets in the box. I have a set open in this box over here. I went nuts. And then when I was working for 7-Up at other stores, I would be at these stores at like the ass crack of dawn. You had to get there at 4 a.m. So, you know, everyone's stocking the shelves, and I'm like fucking around in the toy section, like, oh shit, Last Crusade, Indiana Jones. I luckily found them all. And a listener sent me Elsa Schneider. That was the only one I couldn't find from any of those toy lines. But one thing I wanted to tell you real quick is, so I live in Cincinnati where Kenner was, and when I was in kindergarten, if you were good, like every week you would get this thing called like a green card. It was like just a slip of paper. And if you collected, I don't know, a couple of them, the teacher would let you pick a toy from the toy room, like this little shelf thing. Long story short, I picked an action figure. I had no clue who it was. It was Tote from Raiders of the Lost Ark. They were giving out Nazi action figures in grade school.
That's funny.
But I have one at home, and he's got the little shit burned into his hand. That oh god, the headpiece to the Staff of Ra. Like, yeah, they gave that to me in kindergarten. I have a Tote. The only thing he didn't come with was this little Mauser pistol, but he came with the jacket. And they had, and the thing is, she had like a ton of them. They didn't come in a box. She just had like a row of Tote figures. I was like, I want the toy. So that's how I got my first. I didn't even know I had one as a kid.
Oh, see, that's awesome. I for me, the Temple of Doom stuff, I was working for a toy company called ToyRocket.com, which was like number 2 behind Big Bad Toy Store. And if the owner hadn't been stupid and cheated on his wife, we would have overtaken them right now.
I was just
because
she got half.
yeah, she got well, she got everything. Like he got. I mean, she didn't get much out of it either because he had screwed things up so badly. But it's like we were. I was doing all the ordering. So when I saw the Temple of Doom figures came up, I ordered a ton of cases because I was like, these are never going to hit retail, or if they do, it's going to be in really limited numbers. So we had tons and tons of them, and we're selling them and doing really well with them. But then every week I was buying. It's like so I bought the complete set. And then every week I was just buying more Thuggee guards because I was army building out. And then San Diego Comic-Con, of course, they released the big box set of the last wave of figures that never got released at retail. So you could get, Zapato, you could get, just everybody else who was in that set. So I ended up getting everybody, but not as many Thuggee guards as I would have liked. I would have liked to have just been picking those things up off the shelf left and right.
All right, Aaron, I jumped up. I got this bag. It's full of Indiana Jones people. I'm going to randomly pick one out. Who do you think I'm going to pull out? Andrew, guess the character.
Oh, gosh. Marion.
Aaron?
Belloc.
Script? All right, script's away. You ready? Here we go. I picked out...
He did just say be right back. I'm
ready to go. I got Sala.
Sala.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved this toy line. For as much as I make videos about... Here's Belloc right here. But I'll talk about, Hasbro. But in 2008, man, this short round figure was a big deal. I was pumped. I loved these movies. That's what people fail to realize is we love these things and the love doesn't go away. Even it took the Disney Star Wars movies for me to stop liking Star Wars for a long time. I lived through the prequels. Those movies weren't great. And by the way, here's Indiana Jones. That's what I always wanted. But they didn't turn me off of Star Wars enough that I would be like angry. Thank you, Disney. You know what?
No, I was reading the comics at the time. I was reading the Republic comics by John Ostrander and Jan Duursema, and they actually made me.
The comics are actually solid
too. Yeah, they actually made me like the prequels just because I was like, oh, here's the side story to what's going on in the main universe. But they were using it so well to springboard their own stories off of that it actually made me like the prequels.
Well, that's a lot of people's argument, right? Where it's like the prequels are weak because they do require a lot of supplemental outside material in order to really get the impact that they should have had just on their own. One of the things, I am not a Dave Filoni fan or supporter at all, but to his credit, at least partial credit, there is a lot of good stuff in Clone Wars from what I've watched so far. I've not seen the whole thing, but from what I've watched so far, there is actually a lot of good character stuff.
It's good.
So, there's good stuff to be had there that does elevate the prequels. The problem is they shouldn't have needed that. It should have been, again, supplemental. It should have been something that just augments it rather than props it up more.
Andrew, I don't disagree.
What did I call Zapito? I called him Zapato or something like that, or Zapato.
Here's a factoid, folks, for those who don't know. His name is Satipo, but Harrison Ford calls him Sapito. So technically, Indiana Jones calls him the wrong name, but they don't change it because he said it wrong. Like every official release of the one action figure says Satipo, but anyway, never mind. You get what I'm saying.
He Hulk Hogan him. He's like,
I feel like that's his character anyway. He would mispronounce it and not care anyway. I feel like that's
Indiana Jones is kind of a jerk. Like
he is. That's what's great about him, though. Like he's kind of a jerk. Then he sees the power of God by the end of the movie. And I get it. Temple of Doom is a prequel, so I'm not trying to act like that. But he's a much more noble guy in that one. Fortune and glory, of course, but he's going to save the kids. And then you get the last one that's about saving his dad. That's what the Holy Grail is, his relationship. Those movies are awesome. There are only 3. There can be only 3. If you tell me there's 5, I'm going to tell you you're lying to me. And we don't like liars.
It's my favorite one.
That's coming out on June something for Father's Day.
I love that movie so much. I watched it with my dad over any time it was on TV. My dad and I would sit down and watch it.
My only critique against Last Crusade, Last Crusade, they made Marcus kind of a little bit of a buffoon, and he was established in the first one that he was pretty much an Indiana Jones before Indiana Jones to a degree, and then all of a sudden he's getting lost in Cairo.
Museum.
in his
It
own
was
museum.
a funny bit though. I mean,
It would have been funnier if it was all a setup to kind of like showcase that, yeah, he actually is a very capable person. They're just trying to make sure if they're being listened into by the Nazis that they're not going to find him. But yeah, they botched that.
Script, you don't have to worry. If you watch Trading Places, Coleman is quite wily and gets one over on the Dukes brothers. So I like to imagine it's the same, you know. He's just really old.
I remember being one of only a couple of people in the theater for Coming to America that got the joke with the cameo. Randolph,
oh yeah,
we're back.
Oh,
we've got some money again. Look, Mortimer.
Dude, I love that movie.
Talking to you.
That's the only movie. No, I take that back. There are only 2 sets of movies I own on 4K multiple times. The Indiana Jones movies, because I'm a sucker for those Steelbook editions, and I own Coming to America on the regular and Steelbook. So, not even Beverly Hills Cop. I'm ashamed of myself.
Before I forget, Jeff, I wanted to ask you because you said that you loved the idea of action being combined with horror.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen what's it called? Boy Kills World with Bill Skarsgård.
I want to. It was on my list. I forgot.
That is a movie that I could not stop watching and going, oh my god, oh, ow, ah, ooh. Like just the whole movie is that. It's got some of the most creative fights that I've ever seen in a film, and it is just brutal.
Yeah,
that's why
there's a
I
game
would
show thing at the end that is pretty gnarly. So
that fight at the end is like,
yeah.
I will watch it because even though he made The Crow, which was a piece of shit, I will give Skarsgård movies a view because he's a pretty solid actor. I liked him in It quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, he's mute in that movie, but it's H. John Benjamin that does his internal monologue voice for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an Archer movie. Got it.
Yeah, because basically it's like he's mute, so he's never heard his adult voice. So the voice that he is hearing in his head is the voice that he's adopted from his favorite fighting video game, which is H. John Benjamin's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a great concept.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look for that on streaming. Now, folks in the chat, it's time to play the game in just a moment. We're going to read these super chats, address those, thank everybody that supports the channel, and then it's on to our bracket battle, Star Wars edition. We're going to do all live action films. If you're a member, your votes will count. If you want to drop a super chat, your vote will count that way, but we're going to read everybody's comments and have fun with this tonight. Our friend John Thomas is not sure if it's older, but I saw a Tarantino clip about Disney porking him for showing The Hateful Eight in some dome theater. Also, ban all subsidies. The actual connection to econ benefit is dubious. Now,
yeah, the Cinerama Dome is where.
Yeah, that was
Tarantino
2017, right?
I think so.
Because it was The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, we've been around on YouTube long enough that we covered this when it was new. So if you want to go back and watch an actual video about this topic from 2017, you got to remember, I don't hate stuff just to hate it. If I have a strong opinion on it, it's because I love it. Star Wars, comics, James Bond, things that are important to me, I have a strong opinion on because I don't accept substitutes or garbage. It's got to be world class if I'm going to drop my dollars on it. And I wasn't a fan of The Force Awakens, and so any of the news going into The Last Jedi, like I remember getting a ton of hate online. They dropped the trailer for The Last Jedi. Everyone's like, it looks so great. It looks so cool. I'm like, this looks like Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. No, I was the asshole. And you all caught up to me on that one. So
Yep.
I love that story. And Tarantino got screwed.
Jeff, you're not a monster. You're just ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I wish
That's
I
called
understood
being
that
world class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's for you, Sabu. But John Thomas, thank you very much. In regards to the subsidies comment, I honestly don't know what to add. Do you guys have anything to say to that?
Well, I mean, I've worked in Burnaby, Vancouver, and Toronto, and Atlanta, and I will say, when we spend the money in those places, it's not getting kicked back to the studios. So if it's not if you're not seeing a benefit of it, then the places that we're spending the money to is not contributing locally. That's basically it. Because again, when you're doing a production that's like $30 to $100 million, yeah, a lot of people, like the entire crew, they're going out to eat after the shoot, or they're staying in hotels, which are financing the local place. In my hometown, I wasn't there at the time, but Robin Williams was doing that comedy movie where he ran for president and won. and they filmed part of
Oh,
that in my
yeah.
hometown. And Robin Williams went to a couple of the local restaurants there, and he hired them all as private caterers, not just to feed the crew, but also the extras. And he even like brought in some of the town folks as well. Like, and he paid it all out of his pocket. And that actually helped a lot of people,
Freaking
because
class
those
act.
businesses were able to actually clean up some of their signage, and also like invest a little bit in like local radio commercials and stuff. And it ended up helping them out quite a lot. Sometimes that happens. The question being is like, if you're doing it in, say, California, there's no way it's actually contributing to the thing. But various parts of Atlanta, Kentucky, New Mexico, even Chicago, they've got a 30 and 30 tax credit for production and post-production. All of that stuff, it goes right back into the economy. It all depends on how the people who get that money spend it elsewhere. Do they spend it locally, or do they do what I've seen some people do, especially some business owners, where they close up shop for a month and go on a month-long vacation because they made, $50,000 to $60,000 in 1 week
Instead of reinvesting.
Yeah.
Every time I hear a Robin Williams story like that, it just makes me realize what a great dude he was. So
Makes me miss him all the
R.I.P.
more.
Robin Williams.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still, I know that some people say that the live action one was actually okay. I refuse to see it just because he's my only genie. Genie's
and Will
Disney
Smith.
character.
Will Smith is not fit to dust off Robin Williams' shoes as a talent. So.
Will Smith is a great actor. He's not Genie. All I needed to see were the trailers to that, and I
don't even agree with you that he's a great actor. I think he's Will Smith. Will Smith is a solid persona, and he's Will Smith in most movies.
I'd say that works the best in two.
Fair enough.
Men in Black and Independence Day. Other than that, like
my two favorite Will Smith movies.
No, there you go. See?
Same. The only ones I got on 4K. Like, personal aside, everybody knows I like The Rock. As a kid, I thought he was the coolest dude in the world. But when I was younger, I thought Will Smith was the coolest dude. After going to see all those movies and all that shit, and his music was cool, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then Wild Wild West hit, and I went, I'm done. That movie sucks.
Yeah.
When you heard the story from Kevin Smith about how Wild Wild West happened.
Yeah.
Because Superman
the Superman and then the giant spider thing. It's hilarious. It's funny because Kevin Smith says in that speech that the guy John Peters went from being Barbara Streisand's hairdresser on a boxing movie to being a producer in Hollywood, because in Hollywood you fail upwards, and that kind of ended up being Kevin Smith's trajectory as well. Although he hasn't really gone as upwards, I think, as he would like to, but he's certainly kissing enough ass to try to make it happen.
Well, the failure of upwards comes with the connections you make along the way, and everybody needing a favor for work, and it just circulates. He got a huge boost directing a ton of television shows for Greg Berlanti on the CW.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, even if they were bad, how would you know? Even if he did a bad job, we wouldn't even know.
Hey, I'll give him credit, though. The early View Askew universe stuff, from Clerks through Jay and Silent Bob, from Clerks to Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, skip a few, and then jump to Clerks 2. I think those are good movies. I don't like Chasing Amy, but they're important movies because they're a very good reflection and a time capsule of when they were made. Like, Clerks still works, Mallrats still works, Dogma really works, and I can't wait to go see that re-release. And I'm glad Kevin Smith got the rights back from Weinstein, because when that hits disc, I'm buying that movie on day one. I love Dogma. That was the first one I saw.
Well, there was a point where
surprisingly still good too. I mean, it's a dark tragedy, but it's got a great ending, and then of course it's got the most authentic thing Kevin Smith has said in a long time, running over the end credits. Oh, yeah.
There was a point where he had something to say, I think, as a creative, but like when he just became a full shill, was it's heartbreaking, because at the time, it's like everybody liked him and everybody was on his side and everybody was rooting for him, and it was like, the idea.
It was when we got to the point where every single new superhero movie that came out, he had some crying reaction to, and it's like, man, like I can understand that reaction being legitimate every once in a while, even if I disagree with it. But when you're doing it for literally everything that comes out, I don't believe you anymore, man. Like, I'm sorry.
No, and then when he lied about Clownfish TV and tried to throw them under the bus to save his He-Man show, and then everything that they reported turned out to be right.
I don't know a single legitimate He-Man fan that was happy with that show.
No, he wasn't. I mean, Kevin Smith drastically changed when he had his heart attack, because he wasn't crying. He was getting Superman and stuff before then, like little tidbits before then, but he wasn't crying over it or anything. As soon as he had his heart attack, that was his come back to God moment. And then, of course, all the kvetching that his wife and daughter were giving to him about his eating habits basically just opened him up to be bullied by them. So now he's become this guy that is no longer the same as who he is. He got very close to it with Clerks 3, trying to recapture that spirit again. But it hasn't held since. And the other part too is like he's not even really like he's still trying to make like a couple of movies. Like he has his dream project of Moose Jaws he's been trying to make for years.
I hope that never happens.
Moose Jaws. What the hell is
What?
Moose Jaws?
What in
Jaws
the
is
actual
like Jaws,
azure
but in
blue
Canada,
ass is that?
Because of our giant moose that we have here.
Okay.
You know,
Because we have moose that are almost the size of an RV camper.
No, I know.
Oh yeah, I've seen
seen
video
them.
moose and elk and whatnot. Like those things get terrifyingly large.
Andrew, I have a button that shows those. You guys want to see the
You
button?
do. Let's
Yeah.
have the button, Jeff. Nobody even had to put in a super chat requesting this one.
No,
Let's just
folks,
get it.
if
This
you
is
want
a
to see a
bonus.
giant moose, here you go.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
Thing is, that moose was probably chilling afterwards, got up, shook it off, and that car might have radiator issues.
Yeah.
That moose is
My
like
car
a
is
baby.
Yeah, it is remarkable how large those animals can get.
Yeah, I've seen them up and close, and you have to maintain very still and pray to God that the helicopter flies from your rear towards the moose. Otherwise, if it's flying the opposite way, it will run in your direction.
No,
Praying to God.
that is not what you want. You do not want that.
Yes, we were literally doing space balls. Like, okay, pray to God, praying to God, just like Jeff said.
I live in Spaceballs quotes. I have Spaceballs the bumper sticker. That's not an exaggeration.
I saw somebody the other day that had Spaceballs the tattoo.
Dude, I copied or borrowed. So all the Stealing Solo merchandise is Stealing Solo the shirt, Stealing Solo the hat, Stealing Solo the box. And when we do the next campaign, I'll figure out like what other thing we're gonna do, like Stealing Solo the sweatband if we do one. But I just ripped off Spaceballs. It was funny. Like I wear that hat in public and people are like, "What is that?" And then I explain it, and I make a new friend.
Stealing
Yeah.
Solo the prophylactics. No Ben Solo here.
Dude, when I was in college, that Ben Stiller movie, The Heartbreak Kid, came out. I have a condom that says Ben Stiller is the Heartbreak Kid. I saved it because I'm a wrestling fan, but I do have a Ben Stiller condom in my collection. Weirdest thing I own, but it's true.
That is probably the weirdest thing you own. I don't even know what else you own, but I can't imagine anything being more strange than that.
I do own a lot of weird stuff. Listeners have sent me some cool stuff. I got a lot of stuff from Japan because of our listeners. So
Hell yeah.
thanks, folks. I'll bring the PO box back in
World
about a
class audience.
I've got a lot of weird like Comic-Con like tchotchkes and things like that, where they give out like weird promotional items. I've got
month.
like
I
a
collect
box.
those too.
At some
I see
point,
that-
I'll find that box in storage and I'll just be like, Jeff, here's a bunch of stuff.
What we should do is we should do a stream or a video we'll put out somewhere where it's like Aaron goes through the Comic-Con box of random crap and I'm like, oh dude, that's awesome, or what is this? And they'll just we need to like create like the hub for collectors. Like I got a good chunk of it here on the channel, but like we should figure out how to flesh it out and completely like, I don't know, be the collector hub.
We need to all
Collector
meet
collector.
up
That'd be
at a
amazing.
Comic-Con at some point one of these days. Is what we need to do.
We will. Well,
I
hopefully
finally
you're
met
there, too.
Andrew. I finally met Andrew at
did.
in Florida.
We did. That was
Face to face.
fantastic.
And
It's
we
fantastic
didn't get
to
to
see
hang
you.
out a lot, but yeah, it's like you were over.
Well, you came on freaking Saturday, man. Like we
I know you guys were rocking and rolling but I mean, even Friday, the couple times that I walked by Friday, like you guys were busy, you guys were selling, so it's like I don't want to come over and take away from that. You're there to.
That's a good feeling, isn't it, Andrew?
It's a good feeling to be busy on a Friday, but it's that weird balance because you're there for business, but you're also there to meet the fans, and it's like, man, I wish there was some way to just like take 8 years for everyone because The fans are why we're able to do this. Jeff, you know how this is. You're an independent creative, so you want to take all the time in the world for each of your fans. We're the same way. Aaron, you're the same way. I can't wait. I hope that there is a day where we can all be at the same Comic-Con with projects, whether it's independent films, script, whether it's just script, write a damn comic book. Enough said. Write a comic. That's all I'm going to say. Jeff, you with, Woke Busters and Stealing Solo and whatever comes next after that. Aaron with Kneel Before Doomface and whatever comes next for you after that. All of us together and able to hang out and have an in-person
Andrew, what
meetup.
you want is for us to meet at a con and then sneak off to a dinner, have a couple drinks, and just bullshit until 2 a.m. That's what you really want.
I mean, that too.
I love the audience. And folks, if you come to a con, I'm 100% dedicated to you from open till close. And if you catch me on the way out, I'll talk to you the whole time. I never tell anybody no at these shows. But when we go off to dinner, we'll sneak off to some steakhouse. We'll have a couple of rounds, and we will just go for hours. Trust me, it'll be the
kicked
best
out of the
time
place
ever.
just because they're closing up.
We'll shut it down.
Script. I know where you can go and hang out till about 3 or 4 a.m. Certain kind of clubs. We'll go there. We'll just talk for hours. We'll just tell everyone to leave us alone. There we go.
We almost had Jeff coming to Dallas, where all the aficionados are going to be, and I know Gary and his crew are going to be, and Jeff was almost there, but then it coincided with Goonies weekend.
I'm sorry. They asked us to come to Astoria, Oregon for the Goonies, and if the Goonies ask you something, you say yes, okay?
Yeah.
This is not are you a god? It's are you a Goonie? And Goonies never say die. So I will be there I'll be back from my trip in a month from today. Nick and I are going out there to Astoria, Oregon. Folks, we're going to go to the Last Blockbuster. We're going to go to Faber College from Animal House, and we're going to hit the Shining Hotel as well. And only if you're a patron will you get those documentaries. I'm going to make you a documentary, an Ollie-style video on the last blockbuster on the planet.
That's awesome.
WCBS.
That's awesome. Quick thing. Anybody who is going to be at Dallas Fan Expo, I will be there. So shout out to everybody who shows up.
Make sure you bring Andrew, I don't know, brownies, orange juice. What do you like? Red wine? I like red wine. So.
I like...
Andrew,
I've been here for how many years now?
Dude, when we hang out, we're going to get a couple of bottles of good red, and we're just going to talk about comics for 12 hours straight.
Man, dude, that honestly, I work many hours a day. Jeff, you do the same. Aaron and Script, you know how it is. The idea of just shooting the shit for several hours with a bottle or two of wine, that's about the most relaxing thing I can think of.
That's like a luxury that doesn't come around a lot.
It is.
Aaron,
I'm also going to be.
I wish I knew you when I lived in LA, because I would have made the trip over to you all the time.
Oh man, dude, we would have been toy hunting. We would have been a force to be reckoned.
I had a car. It wasn't like I couldn't get anywhere. I'm like, shit, man, I'll meet you at Frankensons. We'll go up to here. I used to go to my local Target and get depressed. They had nothing. Ugh.
See, now, where I am, I'm a little more inland, and so there is a hub of different stores. So I have good, I have really good hunting. And then I'd be like, well, let's head out towards San Diego. My buddy's got a vintage store called Toy Addicts in La Mesa. Let's head out that way, and we'll just hit every store along the route. And by the time we get back, there won't be any room in this car because we'll have just scored everything we could possibly want.
Keep picking up more things.
I bought every Han Solo I could find.
Well, this has always been the thing is if I go out, if I go on a trip somewhere, I'll leave several hours early because I want to hit stores on the way. And if I do it right, by the time I get back, I can sell all that stuff. And then but the trip has been a net zero. It cost me nothing to go and have all this fun. I'll probably end up with some toys that I wanted, and nothing cost me anything because I made it all back. So
that is the best way to do it, folks. Come hang out with us at a con. That's a long way of saying come hang out with us. I had a great time at Lexington with everybody. We sold a lot of Woke Busters. We made a lot of friends. It's fun too, because a lot of people that come to the table know me just from the YouTube stuff. They're like, hey, I saw that video of you and Ollie's, and I'm like, yeah, the Shuricopter, and we'll joke, and I'll pull one out from under the table, and we'll chuckle and have a good time. So
I like this idea that you have a Shuricopter that travels with you from show to show that you just have to have under the table to produce. This
one right here.
That's the one. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'll be at I'll be there at Dallas too, Andrew. I'm going to be over with Sigma Comics at their table. H. German has a book called Here Comes Calico that is about a superhero that's that defends like animal rights. So if you abuse animals, he's like a vigilante that will come and take care of you. And it's a
That's
great
amazing.
book. It's a lot of fun.
I
He's
can get
working with,
behind that one.
I
yeah,
can
he's
get
working
behind
with
that
like
one.
he's working with Mike Barron. He's working with Klaus Janson.
Oh,
you know,
Klaus Janson, no shit.
yeah, so it's like just really cool stuff. But he's given
Ooh.
Dolan and I some room at his table, so I'm going to be selling some. I haven't told anybody this, so I'll just say it here. I'm going to be selling preview copies of Kneel Before Doomface that are just the art.
All right. Well, you will see me because I did
it's,
see that message via Kickstarter, the update that said colors and art were done. Now you're moving into the lettering phase. So
yeah,
I'm
so
excited.
we did several pages, and there's some little teases in there, and yeah, so it's gonna be fun to have those at the table. You know, the first time there's been anything Doomface that wasn't just prints, you know, at a table. Excited about that, and then Drew will be there with Unholy Nightmare. So you know, it's we'll be having some fun, and then I'll definitely go over and see you guys. Now you said you're going to be there. Is Rippaverse there? Or are you guys are going to be selling? Yeah.
So Eric, myself, I believe the Saskas are going to be there. Caro will be there. So anybody that picked up Ripazine #3 and read Dirty Deeds, our first sci-fi story that we had, kind of a ragtag sci-fi group, she will be there and happy to sign any copies. So yeah, come on by, and I'll absolutely swing by your booth as well.
It's so funny.
I'll have to grab one of those preview copies.
Any of these people that go online and they grouse about how, oh, you know, the people that buy the Rippaverse books, they don't read the Rippaverse books. That it's just, you know, they're just buying cultural war bonds or whatever. You know, nobody reads these things.
The fuck is
Because
most
obviously
most of those
they've never
people
been to a
don't
show.
even read comics anyway.
Yeah, and they've never been to a show. They've never been to a show where they've seen what goes on at your table because, you know, I've walked up just in Florida, just walking up to talk to you. I had to maneuver around several little clusters of people who had grouped up, who had their books that they had just bought, or, you know, they bought some other covers that they didn't have, but they were standing there talking about the characters, talking about the storylines, like, you know, like you would get in a comic book store, you know, back in the day where you would walk in and people would be talking about stories. They'd be talking about characters. Could this, you know, what do you think this means? Could this character take this character? Is there a connection between this characters? People were having those conversations. So, you know, the people that say that sort of thing, they've never been to a show. And even if they were, they wouldn't admit it because they're just determined to be angry and to hate. And it's like, you should be celebrating anybody. Anybody in the indie space should be celebrating any success in the indie space because a rising tide lifts all ships.
That's why I am so happy to be able to support, you know, and I'm blessed to have a job that allows me the extra finances to support other indies like yourself, Aaron, like Jeff's projects, Script. If you write a damn comic book, I will support it. So get on that.
Or I'm waiting for them to be launched so I can cross promote.
All right, hurry up.
You know, you got a place here, buddy. All three of you guys, you know that. We're all about, folks, we here on WCBS, well, just me because I'm the channel, but like I'm all about comics and independent creation and fun and art and all this shit. You know, I don't want to go watch crappy movies, and I don't want to be talked down to by some dickhead video game journalist. So I have people on here that make art that either makes fun of it or just it avoids that kind of stuff. You know, anybody can come on here and talk about their work. We've had Literature Devil and all these other guys come on to talk about work. I am all about the comic book. It is my favorite form of entertainment. Why? Because it's art and it's a story. And admittedly, I'm more in the art than the story, but I want both. And so if you out there are trying to get your stuff made, published, contact me. I'm not saying I can help you make $1 million, but I can always point you in the right direction, and we can always retweet and put out good, you know, help good projects because it doesn't hurt us to help other people. So that's what I'm about. So if you guys need help, if you're out there making your own books, hell, if you write and draw your books, I'll go the extra distance to at least retweet and help you out because that takes a lot of work. That shit ain't easy.
You say that from firsthand perspective.
And I'm happy to do it, and I'm doing it again. Like Wokebusters took a while because of you know, life shit, but now Stealing Solo 2 is a quarter of the way done after today. So like that's it. Yeah, dude, it's great. Like, Aaron, you know this too. Like, when you're inspired and you're writing, it just comes out of you. Like, for me, I write a little bit and I draw a lot more, but it keeps flowing. Like, I can't wait to give a copy of this book to Mark Hamill himself because he will look at it and go, what? And I'll go, Mark, I'm sorry, but you're a loony bastard. I love you, brother, but you need to read this book. And he'll read it and he'll laugh. And we'll make the movie. But the only problem is it'll be like an Indiana Jones situation where we make the first one and then we got to make the prequel and then we got to make the final chapter. So it is what it is. But When I was
I
working
would
on the
love
book
that.
today,
Nothing would make me happier than to see that happen. And script can help in the filmmaking process.
shit,
He
if
can
I could
help with
hire
the
a script to
screenplay
write the script,
adaptation.
I'd be like, script, what's your fee? Let's make this happen. Mark Hamill's on board. Hell, if we could get Harrison Ford on board, I guarantee we could crowdfund his fee. We have a big enough platform for that. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
Look, I mean, he did.
We will strong arm script into the screenplay adaptation.
We'll just
he
pay
did
him.
Red Hulk.
That's true. I'm like, look, Mr. Ford, I can't promise you $50 million like a Marvel movie, but I can promise you your basic fee and whatever a cut of the box office you need to make this happen. I own the book, so I'll enjoy it that way. But we need independent actors. Anyway, let's read these super chats and play bracket battle. Sorry, I've had a couple
Bracket
beers.
battle. That's the one.
Yeah, I don't drink too much. John Thomas says, actually, Andrew, I'm cautiously optimistic about the Tony and Ziva series on Paramount Plus.
I don't know what that is.
John, if you could tell us what that is, I have no clue. But
I don't either.
I have Paramount Plus, and I'm open-minded these days about most forms of entertainment. TLJ Screwjob says, thoughts on the OG actor not reprising role later, i.e. Peter Graves not in the Mission Impossible movies. Not seeing the show, I don't care, but fans do care because they turned bad. I will say this, TLJ Screwjob. I discovered Mission Impossible through the movie in 1997 on videotape. Loved it. Thought it was
That's when I
awesome.
saw it.
Got the video game. But as an adult, I've gone back to watch the show. I understand that they're all tied together, that Jim Phelps is the same character, X, Y, and Z. I would like if Peter Graves would have played the character, but because you don't have Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, the rest of the crew, and they didn't want to get killed off. I understand that because Mission Impossible was this cultural event on television. It's a great show. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. Script can vouch for that.
Oh yeah.
But I like when the OG actor reprises their role, but I also like when the OG actor comes back for a different role. For example, terrible comparison, but the Brady Bunch sequel. There's a scene where the grandma comes back at the end of the movie. Who's the grandma? Florence Henderson, the original Mrs. Brady. Little tidbits like that work great for me. As long as you're throwing a bone to the original cast, a little homage, a little love here and there, that shit works.
Those
I don't
are fun
necessarily
nods.
need to see it. Yeah.
The original Alice is also in, is in there as like the truck driver.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you get
And like, for example, as a Harry Potter fan, if the original actor for Draco Malfoy were to end up playing the father of his character from the movies instead, if he played Lucius in the HBO Max reboot, that would be wonderful to me. I think that would be hilarious.
Dude, he's really good in the Planet of the Apes movie.
Dude, he's just a genuinely good actor, actually. He wound up being like the best actor of all the kids. And he's also, ironically, the one that kind of stayed out of, well, he went through some like drug and alcohol stuff, but like he stayed out of like political nonsense.
Yeah, but what's his face? Ron. Have you ever seen Servant on Apple Plus?
Rupert
TV?
Grint? I have not.
Yeah.
No.
His role in Servant is so good that
I wasn't aware
makes me...
he had even been in anything.
Oh, dude,
recently.
you gotta watch Servant. He plays like a douchey. You just gotta watch it. I can't explain it. He's great.
Servant.
That's it.
Okay. What you said it's on Apple?
Yeah, it's an M. Night Shyamalan show, but it's really good.
So it's
take all
good
your
M. Night
preconceived-
Shyamalan.
Yeah, he produced it. He didn't direct it, but
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
why.
As for Peter Graves, he actually refused, along with Martin Landau and Barbara Bain, because the original draft of the script had the original MI team being evil and then killed off, and with Peter Graves's Phelps being the bad guy at the end, and they all said no, that's disrespectful to the characters that we played over those years, and it's also disrespectful to the audience, because if this movie franchise is supposed to be a sequel to the original show, they're going to be really upset by that, and they were actually, especially when John Voight was recast as Phelps and then he became the bad guy. It did have a huge uproar within the Mission Impossible fan community.
I mean, to this day, I've seen people in the chat whenever I bring up Mission Impossible. I know there's some older fans that are still to this day pissed about that.
I hated the first movie because of that.
I don't have that experience
my
because I
favorite
haven't
one.
I haven't watched
seen it. But the
I
thing
haven't
is,
watched the 60s show or the 80s reboot.
well, I talked to Robert Meyer Burnett about this on my channel like years ago, and I said Mission Impossible, the Brian De Palma one, was essentially The Last Jedi before The Last Jedi. It just didn't have as huge a hit because it was a smaller franchise in comparison to Star Wars at that time.
Right.
But the reactions were almost identical. And yet,
Hmm.
it did. Unlike with what Disney did with Star Wars, Tom Cruise managed to lead that film franchise into something that actually kind of worked. I mean, granted, there's a number of years between sequels, but he still keeps coming back to it, and they still keep doing fairly well.
The second one's the worst one. I can't.
Yeah, I didn't
watch
like the
that.
franchise until 3. That was
I
where I was.
can't
So
even-
I
1, 4, and the rest
love
are great.
I love all of them except for number 2. 2, because I'm OCD, I will still watch when I go through a rewatch, but it's my least favorite by far.
Number 3 gives me a headache every time since I saw it in the theater. And it's J.J. Abrams wrote it. And a fun fact, even though so many J.J. Abrams fans don't want to believe this, but Tom Cruise doesn't work with J.J. anymore. And
Good.
it's very rare for Tom Cruise not to work with a director that he likes.
Well, Ghost
Mhm.
Protocol Onwards is the franchise at its best, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's when they had just like, all right, they figured out the correct creative team and whatnot. Like, okay, this is what we're moving forward with. But there were still things that 3 is my second least favorite. But there are still things that there are more things that I like about it than number 2, just because I do like the personal story with Ethan.
Yeah,
and his
3
wife.
is 3 is my least favorite of all the ones that I like. It was like the first one where I was like, okay, maybe there is something here. And then as they kept going, I was like, oh, these are getting better. And then
And what's his name was I always forget the actor's name. He sadly tragically passed away, but phenomenal villain.
Philip
Philip
Seymour
Seymour
Hoffman.
Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah,
He was great. R.I.P.
He was-
to fucking Brent.
he was
Big Lebowski.
incredible in that film. Like, there are a lot of things to criticize about the movie, but he was so good in it. And like when he and Tom were on screen together, you saw the hatred in each other's eyes, and I was like, oh, this is so good. But that's more of a case of just like 2 really good performers making the best of what they have to work with.
What they were
opposed to
doing is
maybe
they
the
were
script
channeling
being the
their
best.
hate. They were
Right.
channeling their hate of working
This
for J.J.
film.
Abrams into their performance.
That's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, Abrams did get his claws into Mission Impossible for a spell there, but now it's I think it's fully Tom Cruise and Skydance that have the principal.
Yeah, it is 100% them now.
Principal distribution rights to it, and the rest is still owned by Paramount.
And it's better that way.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't heard of any JJ projects announced in a long time.
Oh, he is.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, he's a silent producer on a couple of things, but he doesn't have much creative control. Warner Brothers doesn't really have anything with him, even though he's got this first proposal deal. And he hasn't even been paid his $500 million contract, because that wasn't a cash to him. That was, this is your allotted budget. You have to make X amount of movies with this part here, and we get green light approval. So you come to us first. If you like that, great. How much is the budget? Oh, it's $250. Okay, so you're going to get that, plus you'll have $250 left on our contract with you for 1 more film, or maybe 2 moderately budgeted films. And JJ pissed that all away.
JJ is one of those creatives who I think is best just when it comes to
Selling.
cinematography. Even no, I like actually some of his directorial stuff, like with Snyder. Just don't give him any creative control beyond that.
Yeah,
Nothing with the script.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He's only
don't give
directed
him
a couple of things though. He's only directed the Star Treks and Star Wars, with I think 1 exception. Everything else has been a producer on.
No, but if you look, he did like Super 8, and there's
I don't
moments in
don't
Super
mind
8
his
where-
camera work. I don't mind his camera work. at
Yeah,
all.
like where he's spinning the camera around as the kids are talking. Like, he knows how to create drama. I'm sorry, there's an idiot that can't open their car without setting their car alarm out.
Oh, no, it's okay. When I was
okay.
in California, everyone would hear that shit. I was like, wait, am I back west? Like, I was having flashbacks and shit. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Just don't give him writing,
Look,
or
it's
anything like that.
Andrew, it's like in the Avengers with Thanos and that knife. It's balanced as all things should be. We lived through J.J. Abrams. It's over. It's done.
Yeah.
Go home. Like, thank you, God. It's done.
Thank God.
And stop giving work to his disciples. No more,
That kid,
No
look
more
at that kid got
Kurtzman,
to
no
work on.
more-
That kid got to work on Spider-Man. I was pissed. I'm like, look it, just because you're J.J.
Oh
Abrams'
gosh,
son,
I don't
you
want to
get
think
do
about that comic.
Spider-Man?
I read
such
the first
disappointment.
issue of that, and I was like, "What in the azure hell is this?"
I didn't buy it on principle because my version of Spider-Man is not created by dickheads, and that includes Dan Slott and Chip Zdarsky and all these other people. Like, give me a classic Stan Lee book, and I'll be happy.
Chip actually got good once it seemed like he took to heart the fact that people were like, "You're not funny. Stop trying to be funny." And then
Chip
he wrote
has some good. Yeah, Chip has some good Spider-Man comics.
Some good Daredevil.
He does. Yeah, it's Zeb Wells and a lot of other guys.
Look. The beautiful thing about Marvel comic books is that there are decades of backlog to read. So like this morning when I got up, I have morning reads in the bathroom. It was X-Men Dark Phoenix Saga. Like I'm sitting there studying John Byrne.
Oh, there you go.
I'm
man. John Byrne era.
Dude, I'm the human version of AI. Every day I wake up and I look at comic art and I go, okay, how can I oh man, I like the way they use the brush on the hair right here. Let's use that. Oh man, I really like the way they make the muscles pop. Like John Byrne and his outline of muscles on Cyclops. I want to use that for my superhero costume. So yeah, like I am not a boring dude.
Superhero costume for what, Jeff?
That character is about a year and a half away, only because it goes Stealing Solo 2, Stealing Solo 3, unnamed project that I won't tell you the genre for because I've written it already, and it's a story that no one else has made. And you got to remember, man, like I
almost got him, chat.
And fun stuff. Here's the thing: every month I make sure that there is nothing like my superhero, and nothing is like it.
Good.
Nothing.
Good.
Nobody.
I want to see some unique stuff.
Once I can figure out, here's the thing: I just need to finish this trilogy. Unlike George R.R. Martin, I promise you folks, and I'm pointing, sorry, let's do the Bill Clinton point. I promise you, my fellow Americans and people around the world who listen to this show, I promise you the Stealing Solo trilogy first, then my other project, and then we'll do superheroes. Because I
did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I did, and I'm not worried about telling everyone. I'm not going to tell the audience. That's none of their business.
That's also the Bob Dole. Bob Dole holds the pen.
Hold on. Let me get a pen. Bob Dole. I lived through that shit. That was funny.
Me too.
It was. And then you find out that like he holds a pen because he has to do something with his hand because it doesn't work because he threw himself on the grenade, in the military to save some.
And you feel bad about it?
Yeah, then you feel bad about it, but it's still
shit.
But then
he was a hero, goddammit.
He shows up on Saturday Night Live with Norm Macdonald and actually has a sense of humor. And then you're like, if you
show up with Norm Macdonald, you have to.
Yeah. It's like, but like you come on and you show you have a sense of humor. If you had done that during the election, you might have performed better.
He wasn't going to beat Bill Clinton in 1996. Sorry, dude.
No.
Bill Clinton was...
No, it was like we had the .com boom. The economy looked great.
The 90s were great. Like that's why all these companies want to like, hey, let's make Power Rangers again. Because like honestly, if you weren't alive, like some people in the chat, the 90s were awesome. There was money. People were chill. There weren't any real like issues here in the country. It was just like, hey, here's something new. Hey, here's something new. Here's something new. And we didn't have issues. It was great. We lived in a golden
actually
period.
lasted very.
We were a decade away from the freaking housing crash.
Well, actually,
what was that script?
More than a decade away. So like a fad in the 90s only lasted like a couple of months. That was the best part of the 90s. It never endured.
Yeah, Furby,
because there was so much. There was so much coming. Like there was always something new replacing it. So
yeah,
I think what it was, at least for me and a lot of people, is like there was this optimism of the new millennium and the year 2000, and you were so excited for what was going to come, and you're just like, cool. And then you got to the year 2000, and it was pretty cool. And then 9/11 happened, and the world sucked. So
9/11 happened, and our exploration of technology went into digital services as opposed to cool gadgets. Yep. That's what killed us.
Thanks, Apple. Now, let me read these.
Steve Jobs.
Robot health. Let's catch up with the audience and let's play bracket battle. John Thomas says, do the Shurikopters fly remote? If so, we could send them to the Ukraine. Oh my God, Tannerite is awesome. Okay, folks, as the expert, literally at one point in time, I've owned more Shurikopters than anyone on the planet, save for Hasbro when they were shipping them out to Ollie's.
Or Ollie's.
Okay, I'm sure even they wanted to wash their hands of them.
This is a sealed Shurikopter. In the future, this is going to be worth $4,999. I only paid $2.99. You talk about an uptick in price. But no, I have held a Shurikopter
Only
in
because
my
of
hand.
inflation.
This is an inflation-proof product because nobody wants this for free. This is the biggest piece of shit Hasbro has ever made because every goddamn Ollie's in America has dozens and dozens of these. And folks, the figure sucks. The Shurikopter sucks. The little projectile sucks. I know it's a joke on the show and the videos, and I love it, but this is a really crappy toy. It's so bad, in fact, that they use paper twist ties to keep it in place. Like, no one would even steal. Like, you know, the most crime-ridden portion.
They don't even use the wire twist ties with the silver like silicone over it. Man,
it's the shitty orange paper. It's garbage. Like, if it wasn't a waste of money, I would buy dozens.
The only way, Jeff, the only way that thing will ever be worth anything is if you fill each box with cement and then build a house out of it. That is the only way that those things will ever have any value.
Do you think a house?
I don't think they're durable enough.
Listen to this, Andrew. That's solid construction right there.
No,
that's
no, it's not.
Quality cardboard.
No, that's not gonna survive my corgi. Not even my Great Pyrenees. That's 92 pounds. No, my 21 pound or 22 pound corgi that lives with my parents. It's not gonna survive that.
Buddy, I am many times more than 22 pounds. I'm gonna try to step on this later and see what breaks.
Oh, you're gonna go right through. Everything's gonna shatter.
You are a modern day Goliath. Everything will break.
Yeah, Andre the Giant's my father. Anybody want a peanut?
Sorry, the old school wrestling fan in me was reminded of Rock making fun of
Big Show. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Don't apologize to me when quoting the wrestling ever.
No, my favorite Rock promo was what he said. On to Benoit, on to Guerrero, on to Malenko, on to Saturn, on to Uranus. It doesn't matter what your names are. And then he started going through the thing and he's like, at Saturn, The Rock's going to slap that crooked eye straight.
It goes like this. Hold on. It goes, The Rock, oh God, he talked about the hand that goes this way. Yeah, I know that promo. That's a great promo, Aaron. That Armageddon 2000 and like anything with the Triple H, Stephanie's a slut. Golden.
Oh gosh, like when him and Jericho tag teamed on her, that was some of the funniest shit on television ever.
Fucking love it, man.
You know, that we have to give credit where credit's due. There is only one man who is the promo king, and we all know who it is because the numbers don't lie.
And they spelled disaster for you a sacrifice.
Right.
Folks, this week on WCBS, we want to hit our super chat goal so we can have we have a brand new Scott Steiner math button. It's gonna blow your minds.
New one?
A new one. The original one will stay forever, but there is a brand new one. So if anybody out there in the chat is like, I wonder what it looks like, Thursday night, it will be ready, and you will see.
What's the goal?
Oh, the Scott Steiner Super Chat button is a $50 button. That's the only way we press it because it's so long. That has always been the rule here on the channel, and everybody, our friend Darian217 and our friend Sejorjan have sent in so many Scott Steiner Super Chat buttons. When I meet them, well, I've already met Darian217, but if I ever meet Sejorjan, we're going to go for dinner on me. Thank you, sir. But, folks, Thursday, 8:30 p.m., Scott Steiner 2.0. You're going to love it. John Thomas, thank you very much. He says, speaking of series movies, script, why did cable networks show movies in reverse order? Because that's annoying as fuck. Maybe that's a Paul Chatto question.
Oh, okay. So it's not that they deliberately do that. So how it works is that when a brand new movie within a franchise ends up getting its first window to the networks or cable shows, they put that first, and then afterwards they then do the subsequent ones because there's more monetization on the commercial ads for the newer film on television than there is for the older ones. So it's basically like, oh, let's say you'll have like 3 James Bond movies, and they'll go backwards from Living Daylights, License to Kill, Living Daylights, and then what was the one? A View to a Kill.
View to a Kill.
They'll do it in that reverse order because License to Kill was Living Daylights. Hold on, I get those two mixed up. But the newest one will always be the headliner, and then they'll be like, do you want to see the ones that followed this? Here they are afterwards, so that they kind of use that as your lead into the older stuff. It's just an old formula. Very rarely, unless there's like some sort of special event, I think like CBS and ABC would be the ones that most likely did it, but they would do like start from the beginning. Here is Superman followed by Superman 2 for a 6-hour night of whatever. They would do that in that case. Up in Canada, we had a French version of the Star Wars trilogy that would air, and they would always air it backwards. So it'd be Return of the Jedi, Empire, and then Star Wars.
That would drive my OCD up the wall. I would be pulling my own hair out.
But the thing is that once they aired it,
and I would look like Aaron.
Once they aired it backwards, after they would air Star Wars,
you poor bastard.
After they would air Star Wars, they'd follow it up with Empire Strikes Back, then Return of the Jedi. So they would do like a full rotation.
So they would start with Jedi and then go Empire, then A New Hope, and then go
Empire and Jedi.
Empire and then Jedi again.
Yeah. And this would be like, it would start at like maybe 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it would end by like 4 a.m.
That would drive me nuts. Because I wouldn't be able to start until they hit Star Wars, until they hit A New Hope, because I have to watch them in release order. I can't just jump into the middle of things.
I'll just watch Star Wars and then go to bed.
I don't know if I ever told this story on the channel. Probably haven't, but I only got into Smallville because a college girlfriend of mine at the time told me that like my personality and the way I interacted with her reminded her of a specific character. I'm like, oh, well, okay, like I'll check out the show. Like, when does he show up? And she's like, oh, well, I think it was like season 4 or something like that. I was like, oh. And so my OCD brain is immediately like, I have to watch 3 seasons of the show before I get to whatever the hell she's talking about.
Did she call you Bizarro? That was not nice.
No, she was equating me to Oliver Queen at the time. Wow. And I was like, okay, well, I wound up enjoying the show for the most part. There's ups and downs on that show for sure, but I was having a good time and I burned through it. Thankfully, I was working for Game Crazy at the time, so I had 3 rentals at Hollywood Video. So I would just rent a season, and I burned through like the first 3 seasons in like a week. Because at the time I was in college, so I was early 20s, late teens, and I could stay up until 7 in the morning and not feel it. Right?
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore.
It is notable that your girlfriend at the time recommended you to Smallville, because a lot of people I know that got into Smallville got into it because their girlfriends watched it first.
That's funny.
Yes.
That's how I got into Supernatural.
Oh yeah, like I saw like the pilot to Smallville, and then the second episode I'm like, I've got enough of this. And then it's literally like, even my girlfriend at the time, we didn't watch it because again, I just knew what it was. But then my girlfriend after college was a huge fan, and she tried to get me to watch it. And I watched some episodes here, and then I found out like, oh, some of my actor friends actually showed up to it, so I'll support them and watch the reruns of that, since they're not live anymore, but they still get a residual check for like $1. and I watched that. I ended up watching the whole series, and I'm like, yeah, this is definitely ground zero of why we got such terrible Arrowverse shows. And just
I have an immense love for Smallville, and I also acknowledge all of the problems at the CW with the superhero shows that started there. There's a soft spot in my heart for it, but it has many flaws.
Getting rid of John Schneider was a huge one, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a charm to a lot of it, but yeah, there are a lot of mistakes and flaws.
Up next,
having nothing for Lana to do for 7 seasons was a big one.
Lana was useless. Lana was useless in the entire series.
My complaint is this with all this shit. If you're not going to make the superhero the main feature of your superhero genre show, I'm not going to watch it. Like, I gave Arrow a shot. I gave The Flash a shot.
CW.
Yeah, but like, I'll just watch Spider-Man, or I'll watch a movie, or I'll watch the X-Men, because they're the feature, like the focus. Now, Aaron, you would have loved this, but originally our bracket battle for tonight would have been the X-Men movies, because when I make a comic, when I work on an X-Men, or sorry, I haven't worked on the X-Men yet. I really don't want to, but my point is, when I work on a comic book, I try to like immerse myself in comics. So this morning on the bike, I was watching X2. Then as I was working on the pages, I was listening to the X-Men audio drama, and then in the in the office, I was reading some John Byrne X-Men to get myself feeling it. So I wanted to do that. But we're doing Star Wars to keep it topical. But like, I love to immerse myself in this shit. And we need to make more stuff that features the main characters. I'm sorry that Disney and all these companies want to just say, hey, it's the world of this. I don't want the world of this. What I want is Wolverine. Make me a Wolverine show. Make me a Wolverine movie. Make me Wolverine games.
It's all a matter of balance and proper balance and understanding what that looks like. And that doesn't mean equal screen or panel time for every single character. No, what it means is you need your world that your main character resides in to feel fleshed out, to feel lived in. So you want to have some fleshed out side characters, but ultimately people are here for the main character. And so they should take up the vast majority of the screen time or panel time. And
I'm not here for the characters that you made up for the show. I'm not here for them at all.
Yeah, no, I'm here because I'm a fan of Oliver Queen, even if you're just making him Dollar General Batman. I'm here for the Flash, even though you're making this version of Barry Allen like a weird hybrid of Barry and Wally and like 2% of Bart. I'm here for the I'm here for the character the show is titled after.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm also here for the main character to solve their own problems by their wits, guile, and own experiences, as opposed to asking someone in base command, "What do I do?"
Yeah,
it's boring. How fast do I need to run to be on water? The Flash doesn't need to know that. He runs as fast as possible. The best discovery of a speedster running on water was Dash in The Incredibles, and he did it naturally.
Yeah, he did it accidentally, and I was like, how did they manage to do this? Right? And it's ridiculous because there are characters that I don't know what it is. The CW has this obsession, which is every hero needs to have some sort of a major team behind them. No, like
that's to save money.
A lot of these characters were singular until they like teamed up together at some point, a la the Justice League, right? Or Justice Society, depending on, what era we're talking about. Like they carried themselves, they figured things out on their own. There's no we are the Flash, there's no Teen Flash. It's just Barry Allen figuring it out. It's just Oliver Queen figuring it out. It's Clark Kent, Superman figuring it out.
You gotta have,
Peter Parker.
You got to have somebody in the chair that he can talk to, so that while
no, I reject and I hate. So there's nothing wrong with having a guy in the chair on its own on paper. There's a problem with doing a television or film adaptation of characters who historically for 50, 60, 70, 80 years have not needed a guy in the chair to suddenly have a guy in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I have an issue with it. If you start with that being the baseline and that's the thing, okay, cool. Like at least make the guy in the chair not obnoxious, please. But I don't mind that as a concept. What I mind is that being forced into something wherein it's never been a thing prior. The Flash doesn't need a guy in the chair. No, Oliver Queen doesn't need a guy in the chair.
Spider-Man doesn't need a guy in the chair because it's internal monologue.
Yeah, Spider-Man definitely doesn't need a guy in the chair because he's the smartest guy in the room already.
Now, our friend Xavier to God is a smart man in this room right here. He says,
yes, he is, sometimes.
He's been a member for 27 months. He says, when it comes to Star Wars, my favorite will always be Revenge of the Sith, but the best one is A New Hope. But Empire Strikes Back is probably the most iconic one. Well, folks, in a minute, you can vote. Xavier to God, you can vote along with us. I would always argue that the first one's the most iconic because it had the biggest impact on society, but that twist at the end of The Empire Strikes Back is
it's the most iconic, but Empire, I think, is the best. Phantom Menace is my favorite, but there's emotional and very near and dear to my heart reasons for that.
Oh, look, we will get there in literally moments, and I can't wait to hear what you guys say because it's going to be an interesting bracket battle. We have a lot of intelligence here on the channel. Not because WCBS, the podcast, doesn't. We're all college-educated men. And we go on riverboat gambling trips. We make our own beef jerky. That's what we do. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. We don't show with the door open. Thank you, though, Xavier to God. Enrique says, script, who do you hate more? J.J. Abrams or Florence Pugh? Ah!
Oh, I hate J.J. Abrams. I just think Florence Pugh is a good actress, but she needs some work.
She's a good actress. She needs some curves.
I will say this: she is definitely the attainable type of girl, and those are very valuable in like comedies and dramas and stuff. But like putting her as a superhero, she looks.
I
like
liked her in Thunderbolts. I'm sorry. I
She is
even
good
liked
in Thunderbolts.
She
Yeah.
was
No, I
also
liked
just
her
about
too.
the only thing I liked in the Black Widow film, which doesn't say much because there was almost nothing I liked in that film.
You didn't like David Harbour? He actually stole the scenes.
Well,
I
I
thought it
said
was pretty good.
almost. I said almost. He's kind of the star of the show in both of those films for me. He's my favorite part. I thought he was genuinely wonderful. I wasn't here for the review of Thunderbolts on the Thursday night show. I actually went and saw the Thursday night IMAX show with my dad while I was visiting my family. Had a good time.
Xavier to God says, I find it funny when I watch shows or movies from the 2000s and they make fun of the Phantom Menace or the prequels. If only they knew what would come next.
Yeah.
Folks, that's what the thing you got to remember about the prequels. You may like them because the sequels sucked ass, but everybody was dumping on those movies. Kevin
Yep.
Smith made fun of them. Simon Pegg made fun of them. Like, everybody made fun of those movies. It just...
But now Simon Pegg's like, oh, don't make fun of movies. Oh,
he's full of it, dude. Like, I like Simon Pegg's movies for the most part, but that dude needs to chill.
He's
the
a
fuck
funny
out.
actor, but he's clearly like he's trying to ride the line. You know,
He's got a taste of one of the private clubs in Hollywood, and he doesn't want to leave.
You know, it's like
Probably.
once you go to the Diddy parties, you know, you're locked in.
And I'm glad I was never invited, and I would have turned it down anyways because I think Diddy's a fraud.
I would have been like,
that's why you didn't go.
You're gonna be playing like a lot of like your music at this thing. Nah,
Nah, they play nothing but
Yeah, I'm
Kanye
good.
West's newest hit.
Oh God.
I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
super good.
Xavier to God, I gotta tell you though, man, as a 10-year-old back when that movie came out, I shit on it pretty hard. Like, 10-year-old me was like, that movie sucked. And then I got it on tape and I was like, that movie sucked. And I watched it maybe twice on tape. The lightsaber duel is cool. I get it. But like, that's why I always feel so...
Burned out the VHS on Phantom Menace.
Buddy, when I would watch the special edition of Star Wars, because I didn't know all the differences as a kid besides the CGI changes, I would watch that movie and then I'd rewatch it. When I got the Phantom Menace, it was like, oh, I'm going to watch wrestling instead. I'm going to play a video. But hey, Episode 1 Racer was the shit. So I'm all about
I
that.
mean, the ancillary product was all good, or largely good. You know, and that's kind of like what kept it alive. But it's interesting because, you know, for a movie that Lucas said, well, this one, you know, it's not really for the adults, it's for the kids. For the kids movie, it is boring. Like,
Yes,
you
it
don't
is.
do a movie for the kids and then go, we're going to have a lot of stuff like happening in the Senate. Yeah, because, you know, remember, kids couldn't wait to go out and get their Senator Ornfree Ta action figure. They were psyched to play filibuster. You know, it's like, and I remember even during the pod race, which was supposed to be like amazing, I was like, I liked Sebulba. I thought Sebulba was cool, like some of the creatures and stuff I was into. But I was watching the pod race. And I was like, this is going on a really long time.
Can somebody? Okay, I'm gonna need to interject here. I'm actually gonna need to interject. Can somebody here explain to me, genuinely, not in jest, can somebody please explain to me, beyond the fact that it's like it is a very long scene, especially the extended edition of the scene, because I usually exclusively watch the extended version of that scene. I know it's a long scene, but why do people hate it so much? Because I'll tell you, man, watching it in theaters was a blast when I was a kid, but then watching it as an adult, even like my dad and I will put it on the TV, crank up the sound bar, and just like, man, this is fun.
I don't hate it.
And not fun as a replacement for like, this is actually bad and I'm pretending to like have an excuse for it, because I reject that mentality and that notion entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not bad, but it does have, for the sequence of the pod race, it does have moments of it where you have to wait extra beats before there's a new stake raised for Anakin.
Okay.
Because there is a delay. I mean, he has a delay where he starts late and then he's catching up. But even the method of how he's catching up isn't really that experimental compared to what Lucas is traditionally doing. And then you're basically waiting for him just to have it out with Sebulba at the end. Like the midpoint of it doesn't really have much substance to it, which is why, I mean, I think that's why Lucas kind of trimmed it down for the theatrical cut, is because
Well, yeah, there
it's
is a lot there for sure in the extended edition that you can cut out and nothing changes in the theatrical edition for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with
I'll
that.
tell you what I don't like. I don't like the fact that they go out of their way to tell us Rex Terrell's wife just got out of the hospital, and then he eats it and dies. They make a point to show us his wife who just got out of the hospital and their small children. Lucas has Sebulba plow him into a freaking stalactite in the cave, and he's
gone. Yeah.
I think it was intended as just like, this is how kind of a scumbag Sebulba is. But yeah, it was pretty
it was pretty brutal.
It's not necessary. That is like unnecessary levels of effed up for Star Wars.
That bothers me more than killing the younglings. And I'll tell you why. Because I have this weird attachment to weird Star Wars aliens that I don't have to human beings, and I know that that's a problem that I should be working on. But even while I was playing like Knights of the Old Republic and I was playing the dark side, I didn't enslave the Wookiees because I was like, I can't do that to the Wookiees.
Good man.
And then when the Ithorian comes up and he's like, whenever there was like an alien that was like, the Ithorian comes up to you, which is a hammerhead for those of you who aren't familiar with the Star Wars races. He comes up and he's like, please, human, these children are chasing me and throwing rocks at me. And, I've asked them to stop, but, you're one of them. Maybe they'll listen to you. And I was just like, oh, you kids are bothering this alien? Force lightning. It's like, the most, if I could have grabbed each one of those kids and flung them off the bridge, I would have done it. Because you don't mess with my Star Wars aliens.
You're like F kids.
I'm the opposite of the Emperor. I prefer the alien races to the human races in the Star Wars universe.
TLJ Screwjob says, who was the room temperature IQ person to make JJ's son writing Spidey announcement start with 4, making people think they were making Spider-Man 4?
Well, that's
that would
exactly
be
what
I don't want to talk about that.
Who said that? Hey, remember when we launched the Star Wars books and sold over 1 million copies? I kind of feel like doing that again. That's how cocky he was. That J.J. Abrams' son was going to be able to move 1 million copies of that Spider-Man book.
He didn't move
And
shit.
It did not happen. I mean, it sold better than a lot of things they were doing at the time, but it did not come anywhere close to that boasted goal.
Yeah, I didn't even read it. I don't like him. I'm not a fan of Sarah Pacelli, the artist. I didn't give a shit. So, Adama, thank you very much. Says, good evening, guys. I got my Wokebusters collector's edition today, and I couldn't be happier. I'm on chapter 3. That's my favorite chapter, Adama. I only stopped because of the show. I wanted to ask, is that Tits and Art in the big sleeve with the posters? It might be. I tried to give everybody extra stuff for the weight, so I probably threw in a copy of a book. You should have a few posters, or there's cardboard to make sure that the book stays secure, or the posters stay secure, because you print these things, you don't want them to get funky in the mail. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Adama. Folks, I loved making Wokebusters. It was a lot of fun. Adama, I'm glad you're enjoying it. And chapter 3 it's the story, but it's a lot of action. That's where the story picks up. It starts with the car. There's a car chase. There's explosions. There's a kaiju monster. It starts in the sewer. It ends on the skyscraper. Like, Wokebusters is a big action story. A lot of people ask, like, they read the title and they go, oh, is it dunking on liberals? No, it really isn't. It makes fun of everything and everybody in a Ghostbuster-style package. And at the end of the day, it's a story about action and drama and comedy. Well, there's not a lot of drama. Nobody's sad in Wokebusters. I wasn't sad making it. But Adama, I'm glad that you got your collector's edition. Thank you for backing it at that high level. I appreciate the support, and I'm glad you enjoy it. Let me know what cover is your favorite. My personal favorite is the action cover with all the guys on there. That's one of the favorite things I've drawn. But people are liking Wokebusters. It makes me feel good. So, Adama, thank you. And let me know what you think of the book when you're done. Actually, guys, I don't know if you've ever gotten this, Andrew. I've been getting fan art. People are drawing shit from Wokebusters and sending it to me. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, I love fan art.
Dude, I don't know what that's like personally in terms of like having created a character and then people like trying to do their own interpretation of it with their own art style. I don't know what that's like. But I imagine that it kind of raises your internal excitement level to new heights, because think about what that actually implies. And same thing applies to like people who decide they want to cosplay as a character you created. There is a lot of time and effort and work involved with doing that. Like these are original indie creations. You can't just go onto Amazon or whatever and order, a clearance super paper thin costume version of something that was at Spirit of Halloween in January, right? For $5 and, say, hey, I cosplayed as X character. No, like there's genuine work and effort that has to go behind that. For somebody to do their own fan art and draw a piece, that takes time. Like I'm not an artist, and anytime I've attempted to sketch something, it takes me hours and hours and hours, and that's time out of your day that you could be doing other things. And that means that there's investment. And that's what the important part is. That means that somebody actually cared enough about the thing that you created that they wanted to put the time in to do their own rendition of it. And that has to be the coolest feeling in the world, that somebody gave enough of a damn about the thing you created to want to try and do it themselves.
One of them came from a kid. Like somebody sent me a message like, my kid read my copy of Wokebusters and they sent me a picture. The kid drew the logo. Like that logo appeals to kids. I get it. It's a turd. It's funny. But I was like, cool. Kids like this. I didn't even make it for kids. But whatever. If you like it, you like it. I feel good. Adama, though, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who's reading the book. Like, it's not a sales tactic. I've gotten about 7 messages in the last couple of days like, hey, I'm reading Wokebusters. I really like it. Thanks.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
No, there's no feeling. There's no feeling like that. And I've gotten a couple of pieces of Doomface fan art already. The book's not even out, and there's already like some fan art, and it feels that's amazing. So cool, man. And I know like I'm gonna lose my mind the first time that like a Doomface or a Lexi cosplayer comes to the booth at a show. Like I'm gonna be like over the moon. But you know what? It's kind of funny. I was just thinking I would be just as excited if somebody came up with like a Doomface costume that was like the old Ben Cooper outfits, where it's like just a vinyl thing. But Doomface is like a print of his face on the front, and then they're just wearing like the hard plastic mask that would slice into your face around your eyes.
Right, slicing your eyes. When you take the thing off, you just start seeing the thin bleeding lines right underneath your eyelids. Like, oh man.
Aaron, I'll be scared if somebody comes up dressed as a Wokebuster. I'm like, are you dressed as one of my closest friends?
Yes. Yes. I'm gonna get a hairpiece, and I'm gonna come as.
You should be Nick, because Nick's got a beard.
Yeah, let's come as
Nick. Beard off. Dom also says, hey guys, have you ever watched Mutant X? Yeah, sadly. It was essentially The Gifted back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was severely underrated, a show that I grew to love. I watched it, and I've watched it again on the internet. If it wasn't the original X crew, I was kind of against it, but it did have a decent toy line in the 90s. That's how you got the best Jubilee back in the day.
Yeah, the comic with Havoc and Goblin Queen and Bloodstorm, and I can't remember what Beast was called, but he was like even more mutated and like kind of serpenty. Like he kind of looked like the Abomination combined with Beast combined with a serpent. That was a good comic and had really good Tom Raimi art. Another guy who has a real clean style.
We're bracketing.
Folks, in a moment we are. I gotta say, Adama, if I'm gonna watch a 90s superhero show, my favorite go-to is the Lois and Clark Adventures of Superman. I really like Dean Cain.
Respect.
Would love to meet Dean Cain. First thing I'd say to him is, holy shit, Superman, and then I'd probably geek out.
You should just tweet at him, Jeff. He'll probably come on the show. Like Dean Cain, he seems like he's a real chill guy. I mean, he did that book with Gabe Al-Taib, like Dean Cain, American Lawman.
Yeah, I've actually streamed with Dean Cain before. He was awesome.
Mm-hmm. I will ask Dean Cain, like, hey Dean, I love Superman. You're a great Superman. You're the one I think of when I think of him. Hey, I don't want to spend 2 hours like just geeking out about Superman, but it'd be fun. I love that show. Yeah. I want to know all about it.
That show did a lot for like what it had to work with budget wise.
Mm-hmm. I used to watch it with my grandma.
You know what you should do? You should try to reach out to Deborah Joy Levine and Robert Singer, because Deborah Joy Levine made the show and she ran it for the first season, and Robert Singer took over for their subsequent seasons. They like talking about the series. And I bet they're on Facebook.
I am taking those names down now.
Do it. That would be wonderful.
I've had the X-Men creators, the Lewalds on. That was
Yeah.
So John Thomas says the pod race was a worse version of Ben-Hur with 0 stakes. There you go, Andrew.
I don't know if I'd say it had 0 stakes. That's a bit disingenuous to me, but worse than Ben-Hur? Yeah, I can agree with that for sure.
I'm just mad because I put all that money on Sebulba.
Come on. You're full of shit. You're full of shit.
Sebulba's going to win, I think.
Did you also bet on Clubber Lane in Rocky 3?
I did. That's how I lost my college fund.
I lost my college.
This guy.
Washington Generals. I thought they were due.
You're ridiculous. I disagree with the 0 stakes. I do agree with it being, inferior to Ben-Hur. But I mean, like, okay, we're using Ben-Hur as the bar. Fine. Like, everything is inferior to it when it comes to that type of a scene. Like, if we're using Ben-Hur as the bar, nothing is meeting it. Okay? Yeah. Let's be real here. Nothing is touching that bar.
The stakes would have been higher for me if I liked Anakin at all.
True.
Well, that's fair.
I
don't like any of the Skywalkers, period. How about that?
I mean, that's fair. Although I liked Luke as a kid, I grew up liking Luke,
cool.
but Han was always my guy. I
appreciate.
I was way more interested in Han than I was in Luke.
I appreciate and value what Luke symbolizes, which is belief in redemption and genuine hope. He redeemed his father. I appreciate that. I just don't care for the Skywalker lineage generally at all.
No, I would much rather. I got way more into like the Old Republic and the Knights of the Old Republic.
Old Republic. There is nothing in the Skywalker saga and beyond that is remotely as cool as pretty much anything Old Republic.
I disagree.
I know
Battle
you
of
do.
Yavin. Every moment from the original trilogy beats the Old Republic. Even the part where Yoda farts behind the scenes. Much better.
Yeah, we're gonna hard disagree on that one, brother. We're hard disagreeing on that one, brother.
You guys ready to play this?
Let's do it. Let's play some brackets.
Bracket battle, folks.
Bracket battle.
Let's go. Let's start the tournament. So, folks, you can play along at home. This is how it works. It's a bracket-style tournament elimination where we're going to determine what the best Star Wars live-action thing is ever. It could be a movie.
Boy.
It could be a show. I highly doubt it's going to be a show based on the audience here tonight. But let's start with round 1. Ahsoka versus Andor. All right. Aaron,
Andor.
What are you going with first?
I'm going with Andor because although I only watched 4 episodes of Andor, there is a moment that I even said this on Twitter, between 2 bureaucrats where one of the bureaucrats is just saying like, you know what, we're just going to bury this because the heat that would come with us pursuing this further is not worth it. And that conversation between those 2 characters informed me more of who they were and was more interesting than anything I saw in the entire show of Ahsoka from the main characters in that. So I'm going Andor.
Andrew.
I haven't even seen Andor. I have seen all of Ahsoka season 1. So this puts me in an interesting position.
So you should choose Andor.
I saw all of Ahsoka season 1 and it was bad. I hated it. It was a waste of my time.
So Andor?
I have heard that Andor has just, whether you like it as Star Wars or not, it has solid writing. So I am, as much as I'm normally opposed to commenting on something that I have not consumed myself to form a personal opinion on it, I'm going to go with Andor.
We'll give you, tonight you're allowed to comment on stuff you haven't seen. You get a pass. Script?
Okay. So Andor's going to get the vote. However, Andor is an imposter syndrome of Star Wars, but still well written, whereas Ahsoka is so up its own ass about Star Wars, but it's horribly written. So Andor gets it.
Yeah, it's Filoni wank is what it is.
It's Script's favorite thing.
Let's see. Anybody in the chat? Anybody talking real quick about this?
Looks like you got a couple votes for Ahsoka and 3 for Andor. Yeah.
We got an Ahsoka, an Andor, I'm gonna vote Andor because Ahsoka, as much as I like Rosario Dawson, just as a human being, Andor wasn't as bad as Ahsoka. So
If Ahsoka had a
Ahsoka's
scene,
just a bad show.
if Ahsoka had a scene in it the same that Rosario Dawson had in the movie Alexander, it would probably get.
Oh yes, goddamn. People can't see me right now, but I have a big smile on my face. Rosario Dawson is a 10 out of 10. All right, guys, this should be easy. The Acolyte versus the Mandalorian. Andrew,
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Mandalorian, season 3 Mandalorian even. Holy God.
You know what's funny? I made a list of these. I forgot the Acolyte until the very end.
You forgot that it existed.
Yes, because it's dog shit. But I got to say, it got me monetized on Twitter, so thanks, Acolyte.
The 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 3 that were worth my freaking time cleared the entirety of the Acolyte.
Aaron?
Oh, it's the Mandalorian, no doubt about it.
Script?
At least
Mandalorian, of course.
Oh
Yeah,
my
well,
God in
Mandalorian.
heaven.
I mean, if you put the Acolyte up against Ahsoka, I'd have picked Acolyte because it is slightly better written. But I mean,
Whoa.
against Mandalorian, it's no contest.
it's less
Right.
boring. I'll give it that. Like the Acolyte is less boring than Ahsoka.
That's only because the characters actually move around instead of stand with their arms crossed.
Staring
Yeah.
into nothingness as if
The-
there's a binary sunset in the vista, but no, there's nothing there. It's just
Yeah,
water.
I have to,
There's
I have
only
to
the
actually
volume.
I have to quickly interject here because I'm actually currently watching through the Clone Wars completely for the first time with Mary right now. Mary Mayhem, for
Good
those
show.
of you who don't know what I'm talking about. And we're just now into season 2. And Ahsoka is more dynamic there in that like fairly low quality animation comparative to today's standards. In any given scene than anything we see in the Ahsoka show because
Andrew,
they
you
just
officially
have her
understand me.
standing around.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because what they've told her is well, your character now is wise and stoic. Well, how do we portray that on screen? You fold your arms and you stare.
And it's boring and it's a waste of time. And it made me
Agreed.
mad because now I'm like, so even when Ahsoka is an annoying little teenage twat, she's at least moving around and doing some cool stuff.
Well, when they open the show and you have to watch her ship land, you have to watch her get out, you have to watch her walk down the pathway, go into the area that she needs to get, look around, touch things. Like you're seeing every single moment of that, and it's like you guys are just burning screen time. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing. You're padding this out. This is not compelling. This is not interesting. I don't need.
You're
to see all
wasting
this.
your audience's time.
Yeah, it's like there's no point to watching this, and there's so much of that. And then folding the arms and standing there looking at each other and saying nothing. It's like you're just looking at your watch, going like, you're just padding this out because you've got like maybe 4 episodes worth of story, bad story that it is, but you're padding it out. And then the unforgivable sin of letting Dave Filoni touch Thrawn. In order to write an intelligent character,
You have to
at
be
least
intelligent.
be somewhat intelligent and at least
Yeah.
imaginative. And Dave Filoni is not. Dave Filoni is a cover band playing the expanded universe's greatest hits, but not well. Like he is a chef. Like he calls himself a chef. He's the chef of Star Wars now. But when you go in, all he gives you is thrice warmed over leftovers, from a much better chef. That's what he gives you, but with his own flair, he's throwing some cayenne pepper on it, even though it doesn't belong. That's what Dave Filoni is.
Well, Dave Filoni's involved with these next 2 things in some regard. Obi-Wan versus the Skeleton Crew. Script?
Skeleton. Crew.
Oh, I've only seen the first 3 episodes of Skeleton Crew, and it definitely clears Obi-Wan. That show is a travesty, and that is the first time since Last Jedi that I've been genuinely angry when it comes to something Star Wars related, because all they had to do was adapt the John Jackson Miller novel, which is perfect, and instead they gave us what they gave us, and I was so angry.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh, the answer is Skeleton Crew, because Obi-Wan Kenobi is an abomination.
Agreed.
At least Skeleton Crew didn't ruin any existing characters.
Agreed. Dead Man voted Obi-Wan. Let's see who else votes Obi-Wan, but officially, it can't change. Skeleton Crew is up next. So, guys, next round. The Phantom Menace versus Andor.
Whew.
Skeleton
Aaron.
Crew and Andor.
No,
Phantom
Phantom Menace.
No, Phantom
Oh,
Menace.
Phantom Menace and Andor. Oh, well, that's actually easy for me. Go
Or
ahead.
what is it,
Aaron.
Andrew?
You were asking.
Andrew,
Phantom
you're
Menace.
Phantom Menace.
It's Phantom Menace. It's Phantom Menace for me. I love that movie. With all of its flaws, I adore that movie till my dying breath.
Do, 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 do.
Freaking goated music.
I'm gonna go Phantom Menace. It's not as well written. It's but it is genuine Lucas Star Wars. It's not a different show for mature audiences wrapped in the Star Wars skin. It's got several things that I like. There's things that I don't like. There's things that I find boring. But there's also some things that I find very interesting and very compelling. So I'm gonna go Phantom Menace.
Script?
Yeah, I'm with Aaron on that. There's a lot wrong with Phantom Menace, but it is still very much Star Wars, and you cannot reappropriate that story into another property and have it still be the same thing. Whereas Andor, from at least the first season, you could take it out of Star Wars, put it into another sci-fi franchise, and you wouldn't be missing a beat.
That's exactly why I said I was able to watch it, because I waited forever and then I started to watch it. And James Silvani, my artist on Darkwing, good friend of mine, big Star Wars fan, he'd been pressuring me to watch it. And he was like, what do you think? And I said, I think the only reason that I'm able to watch it is because it is so far divorced from Star Wars that it doesn't remind me of how much I hate Disney's handling of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I was like, it just feels like generic sci-fi show.
So the chat is giving a lot of love to the Phantom Menace. We got John, Jim, Deadman, Enrique, Michael. I'm going to go Phantom Menace as well. I don't love it like a lot of people, but I don't hate it. That's it's easier to watch than episode 2 and episode 7, 8, and 9.
It's my favorite of the prequels, that's for sure.
Now, guys, here comes the real shit kicker.
Oh boy.
What's the
Oh
best
God.
between The Rise of Skywalker and
All right,
The Last
actually,
Jedi?
hold on. This
set us
actually,
up, you
hold on. I'm gonna go
My
first.
fault.
I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna go first here. I'm calling dibs. This is actually not a difficult decision. As a Star Wars fan, maybe it's a more difficult decision, but just looking at writing, look. The Last Jedi launched about 1 billion YouTube channels. It destroyed the lore. However, it is a coherent story that you can follow from start to finish.
Yep.
The Rise of Skywalker at no point knows where it was coming from, where it is, or where it is going. It is a travesty in storytelling beyond also being abysmal and a bastardization of Star Wars lore. So it not only does the thing that The Last Jedi did worse, but it also fails to do the only thing that The Last Jedi managed to kind of do all right.
So you're voting for The Last Jedi?
I am voting for The Last Jedi. It is a better movie than The Rise of Skywalker. Both are trash in terms of Star Wars content.
Aaron?
It's like Andrew took everything that I wanted to say right out of my head and said it. I also have to go with The Last Jedi, much as I despise that movie, much as that is the one that severed my connection to the Force, if you will. The Rise of Skywalker is everything that's wrong with The Last Jedi while also trying to walk The Last Jedi back and delivering nothing. There is still a world where you could have had The Last Jedi and you could have made a film that takes place after it.
You could have fixed things with The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
and
you could
didn't.
have fixed things. You could have made... The Rise of Skywalker is so monumentally stupid.
You somehow made it worse.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
As dumb as The Last Jedi is, as dumb as the conclusions that Ryan Johnson, or Ryan, what's his name? Ryan Johnson?
Yeah.
I was like, Dwayne Johnson? No, that's not right.
Oh, don't make that mistake.
No. Whoa.
As bad
you,
and as
You're welcome.
incoherent as his logic is on that film, everything about Rise of Skywalker is infinitely worse.
Yeah. So I liken this. This is actually kind of funny. I'm gonna make this a sports analogy. This is the equivalent. The Rise of Skywalker was the equivalent of the Atlanta Falcons when they were absolutely creaming the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, and they had it. Like the game was in their hands. Actually, no, I'll do it even better. This was when the Seattle Seahawks, all they had to do was hand the ball off to beast mode, and they would have won the freaking Super Bowl. But instead, they decided to play action and toss the ball and did an interception, and the Patriots wound up winning anyway. The Rise of Skywalker had honestly the easiest job in the world to correct things from The Last Jedi, and yet they decided to make a worse movie on every possible level. Again, The Last Jedi is a horrible Star Wars movie. It is the piece of Star Wars, even if people like were iffy or okay or like still like semi-optimistic after The Force Awakens, of which I am not. I do not count myself among those people. But even those people, Last Jedi is what broke them. Rise of Skywalker somehow managed to do worse.
Last Jedi left you for dead. Rise of Skywalker came over and raped you and then shot you twice in the back of the head.
Something like that.
Script, what are you voting for?
Well, The Rise of Skywalker was written by Batman v Superman, Justice League, Zack Snyder, Justice League scribe, Chris Terrio. So I'm clearly going to go with The Last Jedi because despite the
I just
fact
threw
that
up in my mouth.
that Rian Johnson did do some significant damage to the franchise, not as terrible as what JJ did with The Force Awakens, but enough to really, as Aaron said, separate people from the Force. It is a more coherent movie. It's got a story. It has something to say. I don't agree with what it was saying, but it had something to say. And it was also much better made in a lot of aspects. It was also the only Star Wars film that didn't have to go back and refilm almost all of it, as The Rise of Skywalker pretty much was. I mean, heck, what's his name? Who used to play Matt Smith, who was the Doctor in the Doctor Who series. He actually was in like 60% of the first version of The Rise of Skywalker, and they completely cut him out and replaced him with Palpatine.
Jeez Louise.
So yeah, that was Rise of Skywalker was a nightmare. The Last Jedi is a far more competently made film, and also Last Jedi made a little bit more money than The Rise of Skywalker. So audiences even agree.
Let me date myself here. Chris Terrio, I'd have rather this movie was written by Denny Terrio.
Wow. You're making it?
Oh. Ouch.
I only understand that reference because of Detroit Rock City.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's the dance choreographer, right?
Now, I'm going to vote Last Jedi. They're both pieces of shit, but I don't care. Like, they're both garbage. All right, guys, this is another easy one. The Empire Strikes Back versus the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, come on. That's easy mode. This may as well be... This is Games Journal mode, man. Empire Strikes Back. That's the best Star Wars.
Say we're all...
just move it forward. No one
all right, just go forward. That's the best Star Wars film.
All right, here's two pieces of crap. Book of Boba Fett versus The Force Awakens.
God.
Okay, so this is actually kind of hard because I have massive distaste for both. Book of Boba Fett, I don't even think I could say was saved. It only had 2 episodes worth anything, and they were the episodes where the Mandalorian was the focus and not Boba Fett. Force Awakens, I think I might actually go with Force Awakens in this instance. And the only reason for that was because despite leaving that theater being kind of angry and being like, man, that was a waste of my time and money, and I'm on an assistant manager salary at GameStop. I was at least like, are they going to go with like, she's the daughter of Obi-Wan? Because when she picks up Anakin's lightsaber and you hear Ewan McGregor say, these are your first steps. I'm like, ooh, okay. So there's maybe something there, even though they didn't do anything with it in that film. Okay. So maybe in the next film, they'll do something.
You got to
with
understand, Andrew, it was a good question for another time.
It was a good, yeah, it was exactly J.J. Abrams bullshit is what it was. And I don't know why I didn't think of that. Maybe it's because I'd never watched Lost. And I didn't realize what I was getting into there. I was just like, didn't love this movie, but there were interesting questions posed for me that I was like kind of curious. I liked Finn enough. Poe was fine. Rey was kind of a non-character, but I was curious to see what her lineage was. I'll pick Force Awakens, I guess, because Book of Boba Fett was just bad. It was bad. Outside of those 2 episodes that were focused on the Mandalorian, it was horrible. And I'm sorry, I can't choose Book of Boba Fett when the only episodes worth watching were episodes that had nothing to do with the titular character. I cannot in good conscience do that.
All right, script.
This is a tough one.
I know, right?
The Book of Boba Fett, as bad as it was better written than The Force Awakens. It also didn't kill Han Solo.
Thank you.
It didn't have Adam Driver in it, so that's also a huge win. Ming-Na Wen was in it. She's good.
I do like Ming-Na Wen.
Harrison Ford didn't phone in his performance for The Force Awakens, so you got to appreciate that.
He was happy to finally die.
Yeah, I mean, he's wanted to die since Empire.
I mean, he did it since he did it because they promised him, and we'll do another Indiana Jones. Look
that
how
too.
turned out.
Yeah.
Well, he initially signed for 5, and they kept on not agreeing to what the 4th and 5th story was going to be for years. So that bothered him a lot. I would say that the Vespa scooters were nowhere near as atrocious as the Battle of Starkiller Base. So I'm going to have to go with the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay.
Aaron?
Okay, here's my reasoning. When I saw Force Awakens, I didn't like it. But I said to myself, there's some questions here that could have interesting answers. I understand you just paid $4 billion for this property. You're going to play it safe. You just remade A New Hope. It's easy to see
almost shot for shot.
That like JJ is just playing the greatest hits. You can draw a parallel to every single scene pretty much. So just by virtue of it being a rehash of a good movie, I think it beats Boba Fett, which is, to me, the absolute drizzling shits. Despite the fact that I like Tamora Morrison, despite the fact that I like
Black Morrison deserved better. He deserves so much
Black
better.
Chrysanthemum, the fact that it had 2 Hutts in it, which I kind of dug. The twins, which they did nothing with. There's a lot of stuff in there, but they fundamentally misunderstand the character of Boba Fett. They make him uninteresting. They have him keep taking his goddamn helmet off. If you have to show Tamora Morrison's face, the only time you should see it is when he's in a Bacta tank or when he is alone with Ming-Na Wen in his sanctum. Every time he is in public, he should have his helmet on and he should not remove it because that is Boba Fett's goddamn face. It's not what's underneath. It's the helmet. And I feel that way. I even wrote a story that I pitched to Dark Horse that I pitched right before they lost the license. So good timing for me. But where it was it was a Western with Boba Fett. And there is a point where the bad guys get the best of him and they're standing over him and the main guy's there. It's kind of like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly kind of. And one of the henchmen goes to pull Boba Fett's helmet off. And the bad guy goes, the main bad guy goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I want to see his face." And as he goes to pull the helmet off, the bad guy shoots his own henchman and goes, "Don't be ridiculous. That is his face." Because I wanted to establish that.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, that the bad guy, even though he's against Boba Fett, he still respects his reputation. And what do we get in Book of Boba Fett? Nobody respects you. And the fact that Ming-Na Wen has to explain to Boba Fett how the Hutt cartel works on Tatooine so that they can inform the audience, that's bad writing, and it's just not understanding your characters because he should be explaining it to her, if anything.
Yep.
Well, we have our first impasse because The Force Awakens inspired stealing Solo. Like, I hate that movie with a passion, so I hate it times 10. Like, no one hates that movie like I do.
How do we proceed here? How does this work?
Right? We go to the audience. Right? We go to the chat.
All right.
That's what we did
chat,
on Thursday.
Tell us how to proceed.
let's see. Folks in the chat, we're gonna count your votes for let's see. Force Awakens. Okay, Force
I think it's
Awakens
Force
wins.
Awakens here.
Yeah.
We've got a lot
There
of
you go.
fans of Boba Fett's 3 lines and a death cry in the original trilogy here.
Up next is Revenge of the Sith versus The Mandalorian. Now, this is all the seasons of The Mandalorian, so take that into account. Andrew, you're up first.
Oh, at that point, look, I've made no two bones about it. I caught heat for it when it first aired. I genuinely love the first season of The Mandalorian. I love probably about 2/3 of the second season. I love maybe an eighth of the third, because there were only like an episode or two worth watching, really, and the rest of it was a waste of my time. Revenge of the Sith. Everybody's favorite lightsaber duel is in Revenge of the Sith. I'm sorry, Duel of Fates is better.
Oh, it is. No, you're right. It's not
yeah,
my
I
favorite.
agree.
Duel of Fates is better.
But Ewan McGregor carries that film, and he carries it very well. There's a lot of really bad dialogue otherwise in that film. However, none of it comes out of Ewan McGregor's mouth. And just because outside of the Old Republic, Obi-Wan is my guy, I got to go with Revenge of the Sith here.
Aaron?
Well, Andrew and I remain simpatico because I am going to go with Revenge of the Sith. Although I liked things about the first season of The Mandalorian, it still felt like Temu Star Wars to me. A lot of the things that they did in that violated expanded universe canon for the actual Mandalorians, in Karen Travis's novels.
Absolutely.
That I enjoy far more than anything
1000% true.
So I am going to say that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. It's Revenge of the
My
Sith.
man, amen. Can I get a hallelujah?
Hallelujah. Script?
I have to go with Revenge of the Sith. Even though its dialogue is worse than The Mandalorian, it's still far more authentically Star Wars. It also has one of the most intriguing speeches that Palpatine gives to Anakin at the opera, where you basically find out that Palpatine was the student of Plagueis and that Palpatine killed Plagueis right after Plagueis created Anakin, and Palpatine is now using Anakin for his own wares. And I thought that was quite good. I always smirk whenever I hear people say, "Oh, Palpatine created Anakin." No, if he did, he wouldn't have had to salvage his body and make him Darth Vader. He would just make another kid. He couldn't, so he had to use Anakin. That's why he was so tempted to try and seduce Luke Skywalker when he found out he existed, because then he'd have an apprentice that was not on life support all the time.
Holy shit, Script! Look at you understanding subtext.
My man.
Of course, I understand subtext.
I mean, you couldn't do what you do if you didn't. But like, that's the thing that gets me, is there's so many people that just look at things on such a surface level, and then they say things like, "Oh, Palpatine, he created Anakin." It's like, read between the lines.
Yeah, he his own ambition basically drove him to power. When he finds out that Anakin exists, he's like, "Oh, I can do something now."
I also will vote Revenge of the Sith, even though I like The Mandalorian Season 1. The later seasons are absolute dog shit. Now, here's a fast one. Solo Lost Money versus Return of the Jedi.
All right, come on, Return of the Jedi. Let's
Return of the Jedi. Why are we messing around?
Even with the stupid Ewoks there, come on.
Listen, I'm going to tell you why the Ewoks didn't bother me, is because I had seen enough Vietnam movies at that point that I knew that even if you had a superior technological force, if you were a primitive warriors but you understood the terrain, you could triumph. So to me, the Ewoks were the Viet Cong.
Well, the Ewoks also didn't bother me in Return of the Jedi as much as most people, or I think at least as much as many people, and for the same reason that Jar Jar didn't bother me in Episode 1, because I understood, like, all right, you're trying to have kind of a hook here for little kids that just want to laugh at a ha-ha stupid ass thing. I get it. That seems silly and out of place for a lot of adults. Fair. Completely fair. But I get what they're going for. Execution, up in the air, but I get why it's there. ultimately I'm fine with it. It didn't
Look, my
bother me. It's
boy.
like why when I watch episode 1, I still to this day as an adult I chuckle. I'm like, Jar Jar, you're freaking stupid. Just get slapped in the face and go away already. But
As
it
an
does. He
adult-
does his presence doesn't make me mad,
As
and
an
it doesn't
adult,
ruin
I
Star
still
Wars
laugh.
for me.
I still laugh when Poplu steals the speeder bike. I'm like,
Yeah.
you get that thing and get out of there. I'm still sad when the 2 Ewoks get killed. Like, you
Yeah.
know, like I said, I have an attachment to the Star Wars aliens. In
Yep.
one of my scripts, we actually one of my pitches, we actually had an Ewok mechanic who was raised on Nar Shaddaa. You know, he was taking his walk like. So he had actually learned technology, and he was like this little grumpy cuss. So, you know, I have no problem with the Ewoks. It's Return of the Jedi for me. Plus, you get that great Jabba reveal. You know, if you
That's
saw the
true.
movies in theaters like I did, you know, because every time my mom was pregnant with my brother at the time, and every time she would go to have a, you know, I don't know, the checkup or whatever. There was a theater right nearby, and if I was good and I just sat in the lobby and kept my mouth shut and didn't cause any problems, I'd get to go see Return of the Jedi. So I saw it multiple times, and man, Jabba blew my young mind.
Oh. I like Jabba the Hutt too. Now, I'm going to go first on this one. I'm voting A New Hope because Rogue One's not a bad movie, but the first Star Wars movie is the first Star Wars movie, and it's perfect.
I don't think anybody with their head screwed on straight really needs to think too hard about this one. Rogue One is okay, but A New Hope is Star Wars. A New Hope,
Okay, so-
easy.
And Rogue One doesn't work without Star Wars, or without
Yeah.
A New Hope, whereas A New Hope works without Rogue One.
Yeah.
Script?
You got to go with Star Wars. It's the one that said it all. Also, Rogue One has some positive notes to it, but it treats Darth Vader at the end of it like it's week 1 of Darth Vader, as opposed to who Darth Vader is, which is he doesn't concern himself hacking down rebels in a corridor, because we've already seen what he does to when he's around rebels. He has the stormtroopers mow them down. We saw that in Star Wars. We saw that in Empire when he's breaking into Echo Base. He's not cutting people down. He's not wasting his lightsaber on rebels. And the fact that the people who made Rogue One thought he would shows that they didn't even understand the character they were.
I don't even know if they thought he would. I think that was them being like, hey, like people really want to see something cool looking, and didn't think beyond like, hey, does this break lore? Does this seem in character? Like give people a character that they like doing something cool, and didn't think beyond that to its deeper layers of what that actually meant. Because you are correct. Vader at that point would not bother. He wouldn't waste his time with the rebels, just typical foot soldiers at all. The scene itself on its face, cool. And if you remove the context of Vader at that point in his career, not messing with foot soldiers like that, it's pretty cool and crazy as well. But yes, when you put in the context of what people know of the character, then it's like, okay, like clearly you just did that for not shock value, but just like it was an easy like in for you is what it was. It wasn't you actually understanding the character.
No,
I was okay with it because of the rule of cool. And because it's a scene that I had wanted to see for
a D&D fan.
Like, yeah, you know, my entire life I had wanted to see Vader go off. And so it was very satisfying for me to see that. You know, you can say, hey, you know what? The stormtroopers they were on their union mandated break. And you know, Vader may be a Sith Lord, but you know, you just still don't want to mess with the unions.
I respect it. I respect.
I mean, at that point, he is number 3 because Tarkin outranks him in the hierarchy. The other part too is like if they told that stunt thing, like literally it's Vader, he's doing the Jedi purge himself, like one-on-one, and there's like a castle of soldiers trying to protect this one old Jedi who Vader's here to kill. I could totally believe Vader wiping those down, because Vader in the original trilogy, Vader's attacks and kills are incredibly intimate. Like he goes with the exception of him force choking that admiral in Empire through his view screen, he's actually like killing people in person, and it's very much like one-on-ones type of stuff. That is who Vader is. He doesn't mow down indiscriminately, because it doesn't fuel his anger that he uses in the Force. It's like he's targeting one individual person, and he's like putting all of his hate in that, and that's what's keeping him alive. When if you don't make it intimate, it's just kind of empty, and it doesn't actually feel like it would fuel the dark side of the Force there.
Well, he does become obsessed with stamping out the rebellion, even before he finds out that his son is part of it. Like at the beginning of Empire, he is absolutely obsessed with finding the rebels and crushing them. So, he's been made aware, he's obviously aware of the Death Star. He's aware of, what his master wants. And the idea that, because he's the one who in the meeting, when they're blowing it off and they're saying like, when Mahdi's saying, this is the ultimate power in the universe,
right.
And Vader's like, yeah, don't be too impressed with this. It's insignificant. And so Vader recognizes that this new weapon could have vulnerabilities, and obviously he's there to serve his master. So in that moment where it's like, it seems like the rebels might actually get, an up on them, and he has the chance to maybe cut through these guys, get to the main rebels that are on that ship and interrogate them and find out more about the rebellion. I can see him just cutting through them like butter to try to get to, to get to that goal. Dispassionate about it. Because it doesn't seem like he's angry, or he's just dispassionately like, I'm going through them to get to this objective. So he's got a single-minded objective that he has to get to, and these guys are just in his way. So he is just cutting through them as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Oh, I see that. It's just that we see him use stormtroopers for that, but then he strangles Captain Antilles, and then he's there in the room torturing his daughter, unbeknownst to him, with the probe droid. So, I mean, there's clearly something more sinister with that one-on-one stuff, as opposed to it's like, okay, you can kill all the nameless people, just leave me the leaders, because I'm going to get the information out of them. And that seems more, I mean, that's also kind of more intimidating as such, because if he doesn't even think to give the no-name rebel a second glance, and he knows like that guy couldn't even if I like disarmed myself completely, that no-name rebel could not do any harm to me at all, because he's weak-minded or what have you. Like he could hold a blaster right up against his helmet, and he still wouldn't be able to squeeze the trigger, because he just used the Force to break his finger and then let him suffer out until the stormtrooper comes by and just guns him down as he's walking his way to the next room.
Well, maybe he just wants to work the kinks out. He's like, it's been a long time since I remember when I killed all those sand people. Oh man, I remember slaughtering those younglings. When I was a young man.
It was the best of times. It was the best of times.
Let me get back into the saddle again. Just one more time. And there are moments.
All my
there's the moment in
recently.
There is the moment in A New Hope where they're like, should we sound the alarm, or or whatever it is about Obi-Wan, presence I've not felt. My old master. And then he says, he does say things like, no, leave them to me. There are things that he enjoys doing personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what makes him scary.
It just,
if you've got Vader's interest, it's like the Django Unchained, but now you have my attention. It's like, you don't want that. You don't want Vader's attention.
No, unless you're an Old Republic Sith or Jedi who claims Vader, but I won't get into that argument tonight.
We have up next, we have Skeleton Crew versus Attack of the Clones.
So like the 3 or 4 episodes of Skeleton Crew that I've watched have better writing and dialogue than Attack of the Clones. But Attack of the Clones has that really cool, though really brief, battle between Obi-Wan and Jango like that. Honestly, that scene made the entire movie for me. Most of I know that everything was supposed to be the build up to the Colosseum battle, but honestly, that wasn't nearly as cool to me. No. Obi-Wan versus Jango was way cooler, and I think I'm going to have to go with Attack of the Clones based on that alone.
Aaron?
I'm also going to go with Attack of the Clones because although the writing in it is not great, the love story is terrible. It is still a movie about things that I actually care about and characters I actually care about, which Skeleton Crew is not and never will be. So and I agree with Andrew. To me, that Jango Fett Obi-Wan fight was everything. It showed me,
and then the space battle, the space chase too.
Battle. Oh yeah!
Oh gosh!
The sound effects on the
sound
Sonic
effect
bombs.
That is
was
one of the
all
most
good.
satisfying sound effects in all of film.
Christopher Lee is freaking awesome. You
Oh.
know, even with bad dialogue, that guy's got such presence and is so damn cool.
You have to work really hard to make Sir Christopher Lee look bad.
And I think it's Tamora Morrison's finest acting moment because he's so cold and deadpan. When I met him for the first time in San Diego, I had a really nice interaction with him, and then had ones later as well. But like I told him, I said I really loved that scene where you just kind of deadpan as Obi-Wan's like leaving. You just go, "Always a pleasure to meet a Jedi," and just the way you say it is so
like it's
stone
nothing.
cold. It's nothing, and it's like, and in my head in the theater, I went, "Oh, this guy's killed Jedi before."
That's exactly what I thought as a kid at whatever middle school that I was in when, however the hell old we were, Jeff, when that movie came out. Like, I was like, oh, he's killed Jedi.
And
This
then
motherfucker's
wait, later
killed
we got
Jedi.
Andrew. Have you ever read Boba Fett Open Seasons or Jango Fett? Open
No, I
Seasons
haven't.
by,
I have not, and the reason is because as much as I thought he was kind of a cool character in episode 2, at that time in my life when those were coming out, I didn't care as much about those types of characters. So to this day, there are a number of novels and comic books in Star Wars Old EU that I'm actually retroactively going back and catching up on.
Yeah, read
because
that one
up until now, like
you,
almost everything that I've consumed is just all Old Republic stuff.
It squares the pre-existing canon of Boba Fett being named Jaster Muriel. It gives reasons for why people believed that. It actually, like, there's a lot of Jango and Boba Fett's history tied up in the galaxy. Like, a lot of people assume that Boba is Jango and Jango is Boba, and their histories, kind of blend together for people. By reputation, but it also shows you Count Dooku when he was a Jedi. And the reason that he's hired Jango is because he actually faced off against Jango and his troop of Mandalorians back when he was a Jedi Knight. And it gives you the setup with Kamari Vosa for the Jango Fett Bounty Hunters video game. So, and it's just a great story. It's just a great story with fantastic art, and it's well worth reading.
Okay. All right. Noted. Writing that down.
Script.
Attack of the Clones, because it was the debut of the Jedi mullet, otherwise known as the Jellet, worn by Ian McGregor.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, man, Ewan McGregor looked clean with that, and his beard was just perfect. It wasn't too long. It was that perfect middle ground between episodes 1 and 3. Like, he was fantastic. Look, I know that the prequels were about the fall of Anakin Skywalker into the dark side and into Darth Vader, but Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan, was the star of those movies.
Oh, he absolutely was. Come on.
It's also Obi-Wan's failure as well. He let his student.
That's also true.
Yeah.
It's
he's
business
still the
in the
most
front.
consistent. He's the most consistent character in those films, though, in terms of like performance and everything. Like, it's just like, even with bad dialogue, he's still the best one.
Business in the front, party in the back, Anakin.
Yeah, pretty much.
You are my brother.
Even when I was watching like the original film, Star Wars, I always got the sense that Alec Guinness was playing Obi-Wan as if when he looks at Han Solo, he says, "I used to be like you when I was your age, and I've grown up." And I was really hoping we get a little bit of that in the prequels. Now, sadly, we didn't. But I mean, there's just, I mean, Ewan McGregor really did a good job trying to make that character work for what it was. And yeah, the Attack of the Clones, yeah, it has a lot of issues of it, but it is far more authentically Star Wars. It just is. And
it's very authentically the old serials, because you've got the weird Coliseum, you've got the bug guys living in the walls. They do that again in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because Lucas liked it so much because he saw it when he was a kid and he just loves that idea. Even though it makes way less sense for non-insect people. It's like, so do these guys like punch in for their shift in Indiana Jones and like get in the walls and just wait in case somebody comes? Like, what's going on here? But
how long does it take to recover it up and make it look like it's ancient again?
Yeah, it's like I like the Geonosians. I like a lot of the stuff that it spawned. The Republic Commando game and those novels are some of my favorite.
The Republic Commando game is great, and the novels are great as well.
Yep. So yeah, Attack of the Clones all day.
We have Phantom Menace versus Last Jedi.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Yeah, that's easy. Like, we'll just all go that. I'll only give a couple for the audience, too. There we go. Here's another easy one. The Empire Strikes Back versus
Oh,
The Force
come on.
Awakens.
This is the like, you couldn't have made a more easy mode bracket than that one.
Look, anything that comes up against Empire, that's just a buy. Like, it's just, it
Yeah.
doesn't even matter what's there. It's just automatically Empire. We know how this ends.
Now, younger audience members or contrarians might have a problem with this one. Revenge of the Sith versus Return of the Jedi. I'll go first. I'm voting Return of the Jedi. Sorry, but it's a better movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Return of the Jedi because one, it is the slightly better movie. It is missing a Han and Leia story, which is actually why I think it doesn't measure up as well as it should against Empire and Star Wars. However, it does actually show, number one, what the Jedi trial really is. Number two, what it actually means to be a Jedi. And number three, it set a bar with Star Wars and what Jedi are that it sadly was abandoned immediately in the EU. And that basically means is that it goes back to what Obi-Wan and what Yoda were trying to teach Luke through subtlety, not through just direct saying, do it this way, but through subtlety, so that he would learn that the only way you can defeat the dark side is to rescue someone who has fallen and bring them into the light. Otherwise, you create a cycle, which is what the Emperor was hoping for, where if you kill a Jedi, or if you kill a Sith, you eventually become a Sith. And if you say, let's say you do kill the master, or you kill, let's say you do kill the master of the Sith, well, that apprentice is going to have more anger towards you, and then they're just going to follow the same path and say, well, my master was brilliant as he wasn't strong enough in the dark side of the Force to defend himself and kill that Jedi, so I will just get meaner and hate more and be stronger, as opposed to, well, if Luke, rescues Darth Vader, and if Darth Vader had an apprentice, that apprentice would have to question, like, well, wait a minute, why did the teacher I have who told me how to do it all this way suddenly turn tail and start joining, Luke? And regardless of the fact that he's his son, he's like, well, there has to be something more to that. That's how you break the conditioning of what the dark side is. That was done in the films, but of course, books, comic books and stuff, and video games, if you're playing a Jedi, you just want to kill the bad guy. So that's what it
sure. There's a part of me that wants to say Revenge of the Sith because Obi-Wan is my favorite Star Wars character in that era of Star Wars, and he's easily my favorite character in the films, all 6 of them, specifically Ewan McGregor's portrayal of him. However, I do have to note and acknowledge the special emphasis, and this should actually be something fairly significant, because earlier this evening in the same damn stream, I said, I don't actually give much of a crap about the Skywalker family, but I have immense respect and value for what Luke did with accomplishing, like, redeeming his father, having so much hope and goodness in him that he came to the brink there for a minute in Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Where he was not completely giving in to the dark side and giving into anger and frustration and all that. But there was a moment, but then he realized, he pulled back, and he wound up redeeming his father to where his father could still fulfill the prophecy of being the chosen one and bringing balance to the Force. And that is something worth acknowledging and something of significance. And so, because of the value I think that there is in that message of believing in redemption and believing in forgiveness, I'll have to go with Return of the Jedi.
Who's left?
Me.
Aaron.
Oh, I'm afraid the deflector shield will be quite operational when your friends arrive. Just come on. Like, there's so much in Return of the Jedi that is absolutely great. I'm going Return of the Jedi for all the reasons that I said before. The fact that to this day, when I watch it, I still get chills just in so many different parts. The whole sister. So you have a twin sister. That's great.
The
fact that, like,
to hide it from me.
Yes,
You're like,
it's
"My
so
aim
good.
isn't that good."
Now his failure is complete. It's so good. And then even I get chills at the attack on the Death Star, where all of a sudden that Mon Calamari goes, Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47. It's a trap.
It's a
And then
trap.
you see all those
Yeah.
TIE fighters and all those TIE interceptors come roaring in, and you're like, they're screwed. Like everybody is screwed. And it's like a low moment that J.J. Abrams tries so hard to replicate in The Rise of Skywalker and fundamentally misunderstands everything about why we give a shit in Return of the Jedi, and we don't give a shit in his stupid movie. Yeah, it's Return of the Jedi for me, and I like Revenge of the Sith. Don't get me wrong. There's some good stuff in there, but it doesn't compare.
This might be a quick one. A New Hope versus Attack of the Clones.
A New Hope.
New Hope.
Attack of the Clones is the weakest of the 6
I agree.
for me. Like, without question. It's not even close. Even with the cool Obi-Wan versus Jango scene. Everything else
All
is, like, pretty bad in that movie.
You got to sit through a
This
lot
might-
of dumb love.
This might
Oh.
be easy for some and hard for others. Script, you're up first.
Oh, Empire Strikes Back. And one of the big reasons I like the Empire Strikes Back so much is that, well, a lot of people infer that it has such a downer ending. It actually has a very positive ending, because what happens at the end? Well, Luke gets his hand back and he's on a mission to rescue his friend. He's not dwelling on the fact that his dad is Darth Vader. He's like, I'm getting down to business. I survived that. I'm going to go after my friend, and we have the galaxy out there, and I've got this, I've got the princess next to my side, and we're going to keep going. We're not giving up. That's a hopeful ending, even though everything that was in that second and third act was really, really dark and really pushed Luke to the edge. It didn't break his spirit, but it did give him questions. And I actually really appreciated that. Not only that, introduction to Yoda, the brilliant lessons that Yoda gives to Luke, the fact that Luke is failing those lessons in the movie, which is very important with regards to his arc. I liked it. I also like the fact that Yoda was literally trying to gaslight Luke to a degree at the beginning, so that he could test whether or not he had the wherewithal and the fortitude to become a Jedi. And it was such a very well written and well directed story, thanks to Lee Brackett and of course Kasdan. I forgot his name because I don't read much of his work after.
Oh, Lawrence Kasdan.
Or because it's late.
There's that too. It's also past midnight. But yeah, I quite enjoy Empire. It is a worthy sequel to Star Wars and adds so much extra to everyone. And again, it gives you a great Han and Leia story while they're on the run and seeking out Lando for salvage. And Luke, again, that's the movie where you only get one scene of all 3 of those characters together.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest, they're paired off into different stories, and it still works. It works really well, and you're engaged in everything. So yeah, Empire all the way.
Aaron?
Yeah, for me, Empire clears everything. So
Andrew, I know you want Phantom Menace, correct?
No. Phantom Menace is Phantom Menace. I've made this. I feel like I've made this clear. This shouldn't actually be that surprising. Phantom Menace is my favorite Star Wars by far. However, Empire is the best Star Wars by far.
All right, I'm going to vote for Empire Strikes Back because it's the Empire Strikes Back. Wow, this is going to be an interesting final battle if I think it's going to go that way. Return of the Jedi versus A New Hope.
A New Hope.
Yeah, Star Wars.
Yeah, Episode 4, Star Wars, A New Hope, whatever you want to call it. My dad still calls it just Star Wars.
Yep.
He saw it in theaters. So, yeah, easily.
All right, so we're to the final round, which is... I'm not happy about this, but at least it's the final round that this is going down.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, this doesn't surprise me.
Nope.
Yeah,
This is exactly what I thought it would come down to.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
All
say
right.
Empire.
Everybody else saying Empire?
Well, let me say something about Empire, because I meant to say it. I meant to say it earlier. And
I need to say some words.
As a kid who saw this in theaters, and whose mind was blown, and then realized that we had to wait 3 years before we found out what happened next. And for when you were a kid, someone tells you 3 years, that might as well be a million.
That
You're
might
like,
as
I will
well
be-
be like 30. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I will be dead before this ever comes out. We didn't know if Vader was lying. We didn't believe necessarily, the kids on the playground, we didn't believe that he was Luke's father. We thought he was lying to try to lure him to the dark side. And there were great debates, about that. So it had a cliffhanger. It hooked us. It kept us talking about it for long after, since we'd seen the film. Empire is just a fantastic movie, and it's really the one that solidified the fact that Star Wars was going to be a phenomenon for,
And more than just a one-hit wonder.
Yep. Yeah, so it's Empire all the way.
Script.
Oh, we wouldn't have Empire without Star Wars. That's the conundrum.
Yeah, it is. I hear you.
Why do you think I'll vote for the original Star Wars, and you can think on it?
Because now, I mean, again, I when I watched that movie as a kid, with Star Wars as a kid, I was way more interested in Obi-Wan Kenobi than I was in any of the other characters. There's just something about the wise sage that it's like, yeah, that's what I would want to be one day, just to have that like that massive amount of life experience and be able to like bring knowledge and comfort to people who are still trying to figure out their way without, telling them all the answers, just giving them the hints, watching them solve problems on themselves. That's always been really fun. A New Hope has a complete arc to it. It could have been a one and done, which was very much what I liked about it. Empire is the better film. And even with its cliffhanger, it does sort of make itself a little bit dependent on what's going to happen next, whereas Star Wars doesn't need that.
Plus, you found out that, as much as you loved Obi-Wan, when you found out that back in the day he had a sweet mullet, that just made you love him even more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. He pulled off the thing that should never have been pulled off before.
Look at him. He's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars
you know what?
changed the
I'm probably
world.
gonna have to go with New Hope because it's a stronger arc for Luke, a great mentor story, and it has. I think it has a better. As much as I enjoy the Battle of Hoth, I think the Battle of the Death Star, the Battle of Yavin, is far more more of an impressive technical feat, and also more high stakes engaging because it comes at the climax of the film. So yeah, I'm going Star Wars because without that we wouldn't have Empire, and if we only had that, it would still be Star Wars.
That's
Fair point.
how
and
I
a fair
feel.
split.
Honestly, the chat is kind of split. We have Star Wars, Empire, Empire, Star Wars.
That's
Star Wars,
amazing.
Star Wars, Star Wars.
Chat, you are world class.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Well, honestly, I think the original Star Wars does take it by one vote. So
I'm
Come on,
okay
somebody
with
who's
that.
not- Come on, somebody
can't-
who's not jumping in. Come on, tie it up again. Somebody.
I can't be
So-
mad about that.
I can't either.
So-
That's one of those ones where it's like either way I win. So
Yeah, my
Yep.
3 favorite Star Wars films are Episode 1, Episode 4, and Episode 5. So, like, if Empire or A New Hope was gonna win this, like, I wasn't gonna be upset about it.
I'm glad that it went down this way, and I can honestly say that Script, you are my favorite person on this show. Thank you. But guys, we had a lot of people in the chat that were enjoying Bracket Battle. It was a lot of fun for me. I got to do one last check-in with the audience. Aaron, I know you got to go because it's late. So would you like to say anything before you head out? Or
sure. Well, first of all, let me just tell you a brief story. When I was a kid, I was at the laundromat, and I was bored, as you often are when you're a kid and your parents are doing something boring. And so I slid off the bench onto the floor, and was just like, I want to die. And I looked under one of the washing machines and I saw this little action figure. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I went over and got it out. Some kid had left it. He didn't have his little coat anymore, but it was oh no, he did have his coat. It was a Jawa figure. He had the plastic coat, not the cloth one. And,
you had the vinyl
like,
Jawa, the valuable
yeah,
one?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I was like,
shit.
I still have it. But I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And so I carried it around with me. I took it home, and then my uncle was like, oh, that's from Star Wars. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, let me, let's go see Star Wars. And I think it had been re-released at that point. And so we went and saw it, and I was blown away. And I've been a Star Wars guy ever since. Collected all the stuff all these years. So it was only the Last Jedi that broke me. But but aside from that, come on over to Comics Aficionados and watch us talk about comic books. Every Saturday we do a live stream, 7 a.m. Pacific time. But if you're on the East Coast, you get it at 9 o'clock, which is way better.
That's way better. Oh my God. I would not be 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm not awake, bro. Unless my insomnia is kicking in, I am not a part of this world.
I love Wes by the fact that I get up that early on a Saturday to do the show.
Well, I am happy to chat comics with you anytime.
Yeah, that's over on Thinking Critical, and go check out the Kneel Before Doomface Kickstarter. We've got, like I said, we've got all the colors done, and now we're just in the lettering stage. So we'll be closing out the campaign soon. So if you're at all interested in a story about a villain that comes back from the 80s and is completely disgusted by what society has become and decides to reestablish his kingdom, and a couple of heroes that want to break into the business, but unfortunately, the superhero business is a lot like the modern day comic business, filled with all the same personalities and assholes and roadblocks. This will be the book for you. If you like, the humor of Wokebusters or Stealing Solo, I think that you'll love Kneel Before Doomface.
Can people still somehow get their hands on that Kenneth Rocafort cover?
Yeah, it's still available. We won't close out until right before we go to print, because once we finalize our numbers, then we'll be shutting it down. But otherwise, it's still open, so still time to get in there.
Get it, guys. That Kenneth Rocafort cover is chef's kiss.
Now, Aaron, you're free to stay. I just didn't know if you wanted to sit through all the super chats with us, so that's the only reason I said that.
There's none that specifically ask anything of me, is there?
I don't think so. We're talking Star Wars, Last Jedi. Script has one. No.
All right, cool. Then I will bounce out. I need to get something to eat. Always fun, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for the chat. Yep. Appreciate you.
Great talking
to you, brother.
Aaron.
See you later.
See you, Aaron.
All right, our friend Overkill161 says, at least you didn't put money on that guy who burned in front of his family. Now I'm out 20,000 credits, and Java will feed my nuts to the Sarlacc.
What the hell? Actually, you know what? I don't have a question. I don't have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy. Never mind. I thought he was talking about real life.
I hope nobody
very
burned
different.
themselves out in front of Jabba the Hutt.
Listen, man, people do weird stuff. You don't know.
We work on the internet. We know.
Yeah.
Overkill161, thank you very much. I might be in your neck of the woods again later this year, so hit me up. John Thomas, thank you very much. He says, I never paid much attention to directors, but if I had known Jar Jar was responsible for the abomination of Trek 2009, it would have affected my opinion more at the time. Burn in Hades, Jar Jar.
I love that movie. I have no shame in saying that, but I also do not.
What,
and
Star
have
Trek
never,
09?
Yeah, and I will never claim to be.
But it's okay that you don't.
That's fine. I've never claimed to be a Star Trek fan, but I love that movie for what it is.
I own it on 4K. I just said that out loud.
I plan to get the trilogy on 4K. I just haven't.
Not
there are
Star Trek Beyond. That one can live on Blu-ray.
They sent me the free DVD and Blu-ray. Paramount did at the time, because I've been on their mailing list for free stuff for years until just before COVID. Actually, they stopped sending me free DVDs and Blu-rays.
I miss the one thing I miss living out west is we would get SAG screeners for shit that did not get physical releases. Mm-hmm. So I had like Stranger Things season 3 on disc and all these movies that are only available on streaming. Kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time. John, I feel the same way about J.J. Abrams. Damn you, JJ! Not
He
a fan.
sucks just in general. There's
Oh, God.
you'll get no argument out of me there.
Enrique has an interesting question. Script. I know you don't like flashy lightsaber duels, but I would say that Obi-Wan's reaction to Anakin is emotional strike, which is why he loses.
Why Obi-Wan loses?
Anakin.
Oh, and yeah, because I'm just wondering which is he talking about? Revenge of the Sith? Lightsaber?
Yeah, he's talking about Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Liar.
No, I think the emotional acting in that was pretty serviceable for what they were trying to do, especially considering the fact that they had to imagine a great deal of what their surroundings were.
Everything was green screen.
Everything
right?
was green or blue screened. I can't remember which one, but like either way,
Yeah.
it was chroma key. I mean, like, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of flashy lightsabers just because it doesn't have the same intensity that you think it should have. But I mean, the choreography is absolutely impressive. Like, you can't just say, wow, that was like, I don't dislike it because I think it's bad at all. I think it's actually great. I just think it's a little bit too much for what Star Wars needs to be. But I also get why Lucas wanted to do that. He wanted to show how do Jedi behave at their peak. And I think that's very much in line with what he should be doing. But again, like one of my favorite lightsaber battles, as weird as it is to say, is between Obi-Wan and Vader in Star Wars. And then, of course, Luke and Vader for Empire, followed by Jedi. Like there's other levels to it. It's more rugged. It's visceral, and it's not about trying to show off the skills of each actor or their swordsmanship. It's about their goal is trying to defeat the person opposite them. And there's no way you're really seeing that when you have what is the term? It's called the Obi-Annie, where they just spin the lightsaber around their bodies.
Yep.
It's like that's not trying to defeat your opponent. That's showmanship. That's showboating. That's whatever. But like, there's more stuff after that moment where they're trying to kill each other, which I enjoyed a lot better.
Thank you, Enrique. Our friend Swift -1 says this is a twofer. Last Jedi launched a ton of YouTubes, but Episode 1 launched the geek internet. Its backlash created the internet hates it. It defined how we looked at the prequels, remakes, recastings, member berries, continuity. Don't forget the Phantom edits and the fans versus Lucas. It all started here.
You know, I like living in the mindset where I don't actually give a shit about the internet better. I like just enjoying things for what I enjoy.
Yeah, but as somebody who didn't enjoy it at all, like, this is important to me because
that's fair.
I was a 10-year-old kid, and I'm like, this is. I just remember going to see that, and I went, "This is it." And then I literally stopped watching Star Wars for a while. I was like, you know what? I got Ocarina of Time to play. I got Pokemon and Smash Brothers and all these other things. I'm done with Star Wars. I thought I was done forever. And then Episode
totally
2
fair.
came out.
You and I come from two completely different positions on that one. That's okay.
You were in California. I was in Ohio. Those are the different positions. But,
I was in Southern Ontario, and I just saw my girlfriend's boobs for the first time, and yeah, that was pretty awesome.
I was a little young for that. I was 10.
Yeah,
so.
Jeff and I can't top that. I'm sorry.
No, you win.
Yeah, I mean, like again, like I was 13 going on 14, and I mean, I was with that girlfriend from the age of 12 to 22, so it's like. It was pretty rad. I had enough distractions to not have to worry. It was like, oh yeah, that's what they did with Star Wars, huh? Okay. Well, I'm in high school and hormones are running wild. So yeah, me and my girlfriend, we're gonna start going out and having some fun, and I'll explore that side of humanity as opposed to just the fantasy side.
That was me when Revenge of the Sith was out.
Yeah,
I was like, I was like 16 years old when that one came out, so that was when my focus was there. But Swift, I love that internet culture, folks. If you weren't around back then, check out stuff like Ain't It Cool News and Harry Knowles.
Yeah.
And Kevin Smith really was. I know people are like pissed off at him because of the He-Man stuff or anything that came, but like he was the voice of geek culture for a long time, and his take on Star Wars was interesting, And I was looking at a clip on YouTube the other day of people's reactions to the Phantom Menace, and they're just like, "Yep." Like, look, it was the highest grossing movie of all time for a hot minute. It wasn't a flop. It's really not a bad movie. But the other day I was flipping through that constantly streaming channel on Disney Plus, and it was the scene where Jar Jar and meets Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon right before they dive into the water to go to Gungan City, and I went, "That's enough," and I turned it off. But I don't. The lightsaber duel and a couple of those moments are solid, and they're so much better than what came after them. So I don't hate that movie. There's no nostalgia for
it's
it.
a brilliant thing to watch when you see the film, the news footage of the people rushing to get into the theater to see it for the first time, and then the reactions of those same people coming out of the theater. And some are just like, "Oh, I loved it. And others are like, "Well, I'm glad I saw it."
When I went and saw episode 7, there was a guy who was dressed like an Imperial soldier, and I couldn't get into the 7 o'clock showing. I had to wait till the 10 o'clock. So we got in line, and there was this guy. He was like I said, dressed to the nines, full Imperial soldier gear. Maybe he was even dressed as Thrawn, excuse me. But he comes down the thing afterwards. I was like, "So how was it?" And like he looked deflated, and I went, "Ha ha," and I just laughed because I'm really not this contrarian, sarcastic, angry dude. But from that trailer for episode 7, I'm like, this is going to suck. And every once in a while, folks, if you follow me on like Facebook or stuff, I'll post screenshots of what I said in 2014 and 2015. And I was shitting on this movie from the second it was announced to the second we saw stuff. I'm like, this is going to be garbage. Han Solo's going to die. I just knew it. And I was right. And I wrote a comic about it. So read Stealing Solo if you want to see my extreme version of what I wanted to do after watching that movie. But guys, is there anything else you want to say before we go? It's been about 3.5 hours, and it's pretty late here.
Always a pleasure.
It
We got
fun.
one. What was it? Oh, never mind. That's not a super chat. 99 spoiled us with action movies. Kind of.
Dude, 99
the late
is the greatest year for
90s
films.
The late 90s in general spoiled us with action and comedy. It was a good time to be alive. It was a great time to grow up. It definitely gave those of us who were around then a different perspective from those who came after. But no, I don't have anything else. Ladies and gentlemen of the chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You guys are always world class. Thank you for participating in this bracket battle, which was a ton of fun. This was the first one that I'd been a part of. I thought this was a blast. We'll have to do more of these, Jeff, like with other IPs and stuff.
The funny thing is, we were originally going to do Best X-Men, but there wasn't enough to have a long conversation, so I'm glad we did Star Wars. But yeah, folks, if you want to join in a bracket battle, just watch us live. It was a lot of fun for me as well, and I like making these. So, Script, anything else you want to say before we go?
I am going to enjoy myself taking a nap because I'll have to wake up in 5 hours to go on to set. And unfortunately, I will not be able to see the official Superman trailer live when it drops at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Oh yeah, the full one is dropping at 9 a.m.
Full
isn't
one's
it?
dropping. So when I get offset, and I'm supposed to be offset around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be a few hours behind. I'm going to try and see if I can catch the trailer without being manipulated by other people's opinions.
What is that? 9 a.m. What time? What time zone?
9 a.m. Pacific. So that's 3 hours behind me because I'm 3 hours ahead. So
okay, so it's 11 a.m. Central. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm going to be in a closed set with no internet access for 8 hours. So.
I'll be at the Rippaverse HQ warehouse in my office because Wednesday's my office day. So I will check that out, and hopefully it's good. I'm hopeful for the film.
I'm hopeful it's good too. Yeah, I mean, I want it to be a really good film, and
we deserve a good Superman film in our time.
and I'm not too bothered by the humor that's used in the ancillary parts of DC, like Creature Commandos or the Peacemaker trailer, because they're low tier, and they're doing that for there's reasons. I don't want to get to the too much details of that. There's a reason for it, but I don't expect that level of veracity to appear in the Superman film, aside from maybe a quip here and there from Lois, because that's her attitude, is to make light of certain situations in dire needs so that she can make it to the next part, while also kind of ribbing on Clark
Mhm.
at the same time. So I'm looking forward to hoping that's going to be the case. So yeah,
I didn't realize it was going live tomorrow. I'm not gonna do a reaction because it doesn't really seem to pop a number here on the channel. But join us on Thursday. We'll mention it, and I'll go see that movie in 2 months.
Yep.
Yes, 2 months is when it's out.
All right.
All right, folks. So thank you for watching. Thank you for playing Bracket Battle. We'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. Don't you just hate wokeness and the toll it takes on society? Well, bust it with Wokebusters. Set in a world where outrage turns people into literal monsters, Wokebusters follows the 4 men who step up to save society from itself. It's funny, colorful,